Thank you, everybody. We are being broadcast live over YouTube and Channel 12 Van Buren. Clerk, could you call the roll?
Yes, trustee Kelly.
Here.
Trustee Boyden. Trustee Martin.
Here.
Trustee Frazier. Treasurer Bud. The clerk is present. Supervisor,
Here.
we have a quorum.
Thank you, Clerk Wright. Executive summary of what we're going to be doing today. We're going to begin by amending the consent agenda to add a board action for consideration of the purchase of real property. The revised consent agenda includes board meeting minutes, our prepaid lists, our voucher list, basically our day-to-day bills. We also have the reappointments of Eileen Parent and Walter Rohoviak to the Water and Sewer Commission with terms to expire in June 1st of '28. And we're going to have an approval of a resolution for our 26 tax rate requests and approval for consideration of the purchase of real property. There will be a public forum to receive comments on a resolution to establish an industrial development district, a public hearing to receive comments on resolution to request real industrial facilities tax exemption for Google LLC. A public hearing will also be at the same time, request for a personal industrial facilities tax exemption for Google LLC. New business includes discussion on the second reading of an ordinance to update our wastewater sanitary sewer rules, we're required to, and discussion on the second reading of an ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance regarding temporary land use approvals for fireworks tents. Discussion will also be on a resolution to establish an industrial development district and the real industrial facilities tax exemption for Google. Discussion on a resolution for a property industrial facilities tax for Google, and the memorandum of understanding between Google and Van Buren Township and Panettone and Van Buren Township. Trustee Martin, I need a request to amend the consent agenda.
First agenda first. Adopt the agenda.
We have to amend the consent, we have to amend the agenda. Don't have it on here.
Adopt the agenda.
I have to request, no. First I have, can I have a request to amend the consent agenda and the agenda?
I make a motion that we amend the consent agenda to add item number 7, motion to consider the purchase of real property.
Thank you. I have a motion, I have a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Now can I get an adoption of the revised consent agenda?
Chair.
Excuse me, I'm missing the agenda thing here, and that's what the problem is, okay. Can I get adoption of the agenda now? Excuse me, there will be no outbursts during this meeting. If there is, you'll be asked to leave. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda now?
Through the chair.
Mr. Martin?
Adopt the agenda.
I've got a motion, I've got support. Hearing no discussion, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Next, the consent agenda.
Through the chair.
Thank you.
I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda with the following items. Number 1, board meeting minutes of May 5th, the prepaid list of May 7th, prepaid list of May 13th, the voucher list of voucher list of May 19th, all of 2026. Item 5 would be the approval of the reappointments of Eileen Parent and Walter Rohoviak to the Water and Sewer Commission with terms to expire June 1st, 2028. Number 6 would be approval of resolution 2026-08, 2026 tax rate request. And item number 7 would be the consent to purchase real property.
Thank you. Supported by Clerk Wright. I have a motion by Trustee Martin, supported by Clerk Wright. Hearing no further discussion, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? This motion passes. Thank you. Public hearing. Do we have to take a motion to go into public hearing?
Yes.
Can I get a motion to go into public hearing?
Through the chair, I move into public hearing to receive comments on resolution 2026-09 to establish industrial development district number 27.
Add in the 2, the 2610.
You want to
I
add?
want all three in the same
Okay,
public
all
hearing.
same three. And then I also move to, for public hearing to receive comments on Resolution 2026-10, request for real industrial facilities tax exemption for Google LLC, as well as a public hearing to receive comments on Resolution 2026-11, request for personal industrial facilities tax exemption for Google LLC.
I have support by Treasurer Bud. I have a motion, I have support. Hearing all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? This motion passes. Okay, right now, I'm going to have Trustee Boynton read the etiquette rules that we've got here in Van Buren Township. At that point in time, we're going to be opening it up for public comment on tonight's activities. Go ahead, Trustee.
Okay. This is excerpt from Resolution 2018-7 Board of Trustees Meeting Conduct Policy. Number one, those wishing to speak first obtain the approval of the chair to do so. Persons at the meeting shall not speak unless called upon by the chair. Once recognized, persons are asked to speak at the podium during a board meeting or designated at the work study. Considerations will be made for persons with disabilities. Persons will be asked to state their name and addresses. Persons will direct their comments to the chair. Only one person shall be permitted to speak at a time. Number two, persons shall use civil language and make comments in a courteous, orderly, and non-offensive manner when speaking at work study and board meetings. Material will be deemed to be offensive if it contains personal attacks on persons, officials, or employees, or if it contains profanity, is of a grossly indecent nature, or includes inflammatory expressions reasonable persons would deem to cause or incite public outrage or expressions of disgust. I'm going to read that again. Material will be deemed to be offensive if it contains personal attacks on persons, officials, or employees, or if it contains profanity, is of a grossly indecent nature, or includes inflammatory expressions reasonable persons would deem to cause or incite public outrage or expressions of disgust. Comments should be framed to provide a point of view, to provide information, or to express a concern. Heckling or calling out is not permitted. Public comments shall be directed towards the chair. The board shall not engage in back and forth debate with speakers. The board shall not engage in back and forth debate with the speakers. The chair may answer questions or correct misinformation either immediately or following the public comment portion. Administration will make a diligent effort to answer questions and requests for information not immediately available in a timely manner following the meeting. Each speaker may address the meeting for 3 minutes. The chair may grant an additional 1.5 minutes if requested by the speaker for good cause. Comment time shall not be shared or loaned to others. If several members of an organization or group are in attendance to express the same concerns, they are encouraged to select one individual to serve as their spokesperson, and he or she shall indicate who they are speaking on behalf of. The spokesperson will be permitted to speak for 5 minutes with an additional 1.5 minutes that may be granted by the chair. Additional time may be granted per the chair's discretion. Disorderly conduct at meetings. Respectful comment upon action, inaction, or performance of the Board of Trustees, commissions, boards, employees, and consultants is allowed. However, inappropriate, profane, vulgar, or repeated abusive language and personal attacks that serve no legitimate public purpose will not be tolerated. The speaker will forfeit the remainder of his or her time To address the board, the chair will make this determination. Members of the audience will refrain from being disruptive to the board's proceeding in any manner. This behavior will include, but is not limited to, speaking before recognized by the chair, carrying on personal conversations, whistling, clapping, other than during special ceremonies, yelling or heckling and interrupting a speaker. The presiding chairperson shall be the sergeant at arms and shall call to order any persons failing to abide by the board's meeting conduct policy. If any person, after being called to order, continues to be disorderly and disruptive to the meeting, he or she shall be ordered to leave by the presiding sergeant at arms immediately. This subsection shall be strictly enforced. A police officer may be present at meetings of the Board of Trustees. When present, the police officer shall serve as security at the direction of the presiding sergeant at arms of the Board of Trustees, and shall have general charge and supervision of the boardroom, trustees' office, staff offices, and work areas, and all connecting hallways and passages during board meetings. Repeated disorderly behavior by a member of the public may be referred to law enforcement or other authorities for appropriate action. A vote of the majority of the board will make this determination.
Thank you. All right, so before we start, there's some good news and, okay, not so good. I get to determine whether you get another extra 30, you get 3 minutes and you get 90 seconds. And I'm the one that's supposed to be able to determine that. Normally, you would have one shot at this as a public hearing, but since we have a public hearing and a public comment, we're gonna leave them both in. So you're gonna get, for the public hearing, we're gonna go with the 3 minutes, and then for the public comment, we'll do the 3 minutes and the 90 seconds. So you got 3 shots at this thing, unlike usually when you get 2. But that's an attempt to be fair as I can. Again, please keep it under control. We're gonna try and get through this thing as best we can and listen to everybody that's got issues. So let's start off with a public hearing. Is there anybody that wishes to speak today on the issues regarding the data center? Yes, come on up. Yeah, you guys can actually form a line if you'd like. I have a feeling we're going to be here for a while and we're going to do this twice. So this is a 3-minute, no extra, no rebuttal, a moment though.
Who is the chair?
Chair.
Chair, this isn't my 3 minutes. I'm just asking, can we postpone this meeting until there's ample room for those that live here to be in attendance here appropriately? Because what you're doing is icing those that actually are impacted.
No, we've actually gone through our notifications to the state and the community, number one. And number two, a lot of these skilled trades workers live here.
They cannot hear what you're saying. They've taken their time to come here to be heard. They cannot hear you in the hallways.
I'm going to say that, first of all, there is a second room with voice, and it's a TV, and they've got the clicker, so they can turn it all the volume up as far as they want. Thank you. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Jen Smith, and I was at the last zoning meeting, and I find it interesting that there was information that was left out that I recently found out from a client, and I'm wondering if it is reflective on the data center site. So I was recently told that the best systems, this ties back to the data center, the best systems will be immediately tied to mini nuclear reactors that will be on trailers. I have found this on MSNBC. I've also found this on DTE's website. So there was a lot of talk last week about if the substation that was approved, if that was a BES or not. And now I'm wondering if the reason for that specific dialogue between the difference between one or the other is because of the nuclear reactors. And I understand you're not going to answer this tonight, but can we get some sort of verification that there will not be many nuclear reactors like 200 feet away from Haggerty Sub? And then the same thing with the BES. So there's that. Also, I want it to be on the record that Thursday I came to Ron Akers' office and tried to sit down and start working on a community benefits agreement for this purpose, knowing that that CBA needs to be handled and discussed and vetted before incentives happen. Otherwise, there's really no leverage in the developer doing this, in working on a CBA, other than them just giving us like a park or something generic, which doesn't help anyone. How are we going to better air ventilation to the houses in Haggerty Sub? How are we going to do any of this unless if we just wait for after the fact and then we have to sue them? We could have just negotiated this beforehand. We could have negotiated any of this beforehand, but no one seemed to be interested. And Ron responded last night after I sent an email copied to the Attorney General that said, oh, we can work on this on Thursday. After the vote tonight? Come on. So that's it.
Thank you. Most of your questions were in our frequently asked questions. It's on our website.
My name's Ashley Shukite. I live in the Haggerty Sub. I'm here to formally oppose the approval of this resolution since our public comment hearing now has been cut from 3 different topics down into 1. I'm requesting that all related items be tabled until there's significant concerns that I'll outline tonight. I want to be very clear. I'm not opposed to responsible economic development in our township. I'm not opposed to unions. I am a proud union baby. What I am opposed to, though, is a rushed process, a lack of transparency, and an agreement that asks residents to absorb long-term impacts while receiving very few concrete protections in place. So this tax abatement, it's for Google. We've never met Google in this community. Ever have they come to us and talked to the community members. For this campus now that's almost 300 acres, is directly across from a neighborhood. It's next to schools. It's next to homes. The scoring memo awarded Google a perfect 105 out of 105. Either the scoring system was designed in a way that guaranteed a maximum score, or it was applied without meaningful scrutiny. Neither possibly should be, a load of confidence for the board. Google received bonus points for holding a job fair, including masonry on buildings and constructing a berm. These are not extraordinary community investments from a $1 trillion corporation. They are basic site design decisions that you applied to an oil lube station. There is no independent public cost benefit analysis included in this packet. Residents have not been provided with a clear estimate on lost tax revenue, projected infrastructure costs, and long-term fiscal impacts on the township and other taxing authorities. Studies commissioned by the data center industry are not a substitute for an independent analysis that was done in 2020 and 2021. No, you did not just learn about a hyperscale in 2025. There is also an impact on schools, library, the fire service, the county agencies that depend on property tax revenue that will be expected to support this facility and its workforce, while Google is denying full tax contribution more than a decade. I think it's really sad that the percentage of my income does more for this community than the tiny percentage of the $1 trillion company that Google is providing. It wouldn't even be $10 a month per resident in this thing if we equated the math. I am also letting him speak if he chooses to speak.
Thank you.
Can we reset the clock for him? Sure. All you gotta do is talk in here, okay?
So I'm gonna talk about like some stuff like at that data center thingy. Some of the people that are talking were like rude to me, cutting me off, not even listening, and just replying, which I expected that they would be more nicer. So, also, you need some probably train them to be more better.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, hello. My name is Melanie. I'm here just as a concerned citizen. There has been a lot of data that's been out there by U of M for everyone for years. Well, there was a recent study done in February. And so basically, I believe it's well known that data centers have many issues that are difficult to address, mainly environmental, regarding what happens to the environment after these come in. My main, also another concern would be the tax breaks given to the multimillionaires, Google, DTE, Panattoni. I understand it's good for business. We all want business. But I believe in Michigan, with Governor Whitmer allowing the tax breaks, which are high, is sort of bringing in people that don't live in the area and are not affected by the by the data centers. So that is a real question for me. Also, I think I've heard there has been some lack of transparency here regarding non-disclosures haven't been done. I don't know if that's true, but I would hope that this was an upfront deal. That was not just a done deal. So you have to kind of cram it down people's throats. So I know there has been a lot of protest in the communities regarding this. Celine, I think they just what I understand with Celine is that the community said no. Many people didn't want it. And then basically they were threatened lawsuits. So they closed it down, and then the residents found out after it was put in the paper the following week. So yeah, mainly just the tax breaks, the environmental, being a real detriment to the environment and the water. And the fact is they consume a lot of water, a lot of energy, and eventually what's shown is that these, the community ends up paying for it and not getting the promised benefits. Mainly their benefits are short-term, being construction of the site, but when they're done, these corporations can hire who they want, and they're not shown to hire a lot of people. So so the idea of development is great, but I think the reality has shown to be far less. So thank you for letting me speak. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Almost all your questions were in our frequently asked questions on our website. It's really wonderful. We've heard every question, so we wrote them all out. And thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ron Hurtubise, and I'm proud to be here tonight representing Operating Engineers Local 324, and more importantly, the stationary engineers who operate and maintain the highly complex building systems that facilities like this one will depend on every day. Operating Engineers 324 represents nearly 16,000 highly skilled heavy equipment operators, technicians, and stationary engineers across the state of Michigan. And I'm here tonight to support the proposed data center project in Van Buren Township. A lot of discussion around projects like this understandably focus on the construction phase, and that's important. Projects like this, of this scale, create tremendous opportunities for Michigan's skilled construction workforce. They put local tradespeople to work building critical infrastructure safely, professionally, and to the highest standards. They create opportunities for apprentices entering the trades and help strengthen the workforce pipeline for the next generation. But from my perspective, as a representative of the stationary engineers of Local 324, what makes this project especially important is what happens after the construction project is complete. Data centers require highly trained professionals to operate and maintain the sophisticated mechanical, electrical, HVAC, cooling, backup power generation, and environmental systems 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. These are not temporary jobs. These are long-term, highly skilled, family-supporting careers that provide stability and opportunity for decades. Our stationary engineers trains extensively to manage exactly these kinds of complex systems and facilities. At Operating Engineers Local 324, we invest heavily in training because facilities like data centers demand an extremely high level of knowledge, professionalism, and attention to detail. Our members are trained to manage critical infrastructure where reliability matters every minute of the day. The reality is that today's economy runs on digital infrastructure, everything from hospitals and emergency services to schools. Businesses, banking, manufacturing, and everyday communication depends on secure and reliable data systems. Facilities like this support the technology people rely on constantly. Projects like this also create broader benefits for the community. They bring investment, strengthen the tax base, and create economic activity that supports local businesses, schools, roads, and public services. Just as importantly, they help create career opportunities that allow young people to stay in the state of Michigan and build successful futures for themselves at home. We often talk about workforce development, and this project is a real example of what that looks like in practice. It creates opportunities not only during the construction, but for the long-term operation of this highly advanced facility that will need skilled trade professionals for years to come. I thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chair. Do I have the ability to speak?
Yes, you do.
Thank you. You have already been educated on the significant impact hyperscales have on communities, so there's no reason for me to repeat that here tonight. Yet, with all that you know, somehow, with all the evidence pointing you away from this development, tonight, you are not only considering greenlighting it, but you're also considering a tax reduction and the creation of an industrial district and signing an MOU. I know this board is fully aware of this fact, but just in case the audience is not, and those listening online, and those that are hearing it with a delay in the other room, when you sign this MOU tonight, you are giving the builder the opportunity to put the shovels in the ground, even before this site has gone through its approval process. All the while, protections for the community are being ignored. Any reasonable person knows the scale of this industrial infrastructure does not belong in a residential neighborhood. It never has, it never will. You had multiple opportunities to protect your neighborhoods, yet you are willfully choosing not to. While some of the members of the Planning Commission made efforts to add meaningful safeguards, the majority of them appeared to be ready to greenlight this project right from the start. And the board, even before it went through any of its approvals, was on the news telling them they were going to go forward. This project, no matter with your ability to go forward, it doesn't even have the necessary permits and approvals. By signing this MOU, you are selling out to $1 trillion company for a very small amount of money, given the terms and conditions that we are subject to. This was not a deal. There was no art in the negotiation. It is purely a corporate greed giveaway. It is too late for requests. You know exactly what you are going to do tonight. You are imposing heavy industrial infrastructure in the middle of a residential community for a price that does not justify the permanent impact your decision-making is allowing. I started my process with Van Buren Township when I first learned this hyperscale was coming to this community. Thanks, Ron Akers. When I first made my first public comment, I stated, I choose to live by, above all else, do no harm. But that's exactly what you're doing tonight, harm. Therefore, my thoughts have now turned to this. If my family can no longer see the stars, if we can no longer enjoy a quiet evening on our deck due to the relentless industrial lighting of this hyperscale hum, then for all of you that brought it to me, I wish you equal and measured permanence in your life. You have the opportunity to say no tonight. I wish you take it.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I'm Mona Norton. I live in Haggerty Sub. I've been here since the 70s. To say I'm disgusted doesn't even begin to cover how I feel. And I'm confused because I've lived here, for a lot of years. If I come to this township, and I did, I wanted to get 2 chickens because I wanted fresh eggs. I'm told you can't do that. I need 5 acres to have 2 chickens. But you can build this monstrosity right across the street from me. I don't understand how that works. I wish someone could explain that to me, because it's insanity on steroids. And not only that, it's a known fact, everyone that lives in Haggerty Sub, the day that they break ground, our homes are going to lose up to $100,000 in equity. That's just a fact. It's happened in all other states. You can't say it's not going to happen here when it's happened in Georgia. It's happened, yes, it has. In Virginia.
I just read the reports, but I'm not going to go into it. They didn't go down at all. They went up. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Issues involved with the high electricity. It's been known to cause cancer. It's the noise, the lights. For me, I can afford to move. I can pick up and just leave my home and go anywhere I want to go. I'm fortunate. A lot of these people are not that fortunate, honestly. And the only reason that I'm still here is I have an 89-year-old parent that's bedridden that I'm caring for at my home. If it wasn't for my dad, I would have packed up and just walked away out of here because I know what this is going to bring on these people here, and it's a shame. And a lot of these people are young. They have children. They can't afford to do that. And you people were voted in to take care of us and what's best for us. And you've done anything but, and I don't get it. I really don't get it. But have you ever heard, shame on you, or, it's you reap what you sow. Let me say that. You're going to reap what you sow.
Thank you.
No clapping, please.
Hi, my name is Megan Daniels. I have 2 family homes in the Haggerty subdivision. Just concerns why other Michigan municipalities have paused approvals to better understand what we're up against. Why Van Buren Township is moving faster than communities that choose caution. There should be a pause in approvals until standards exist. There's been back and forth. We knew, we didn't know. We need to change language going forward because this really sounds like maybe it isn't part of what our master plan is. People have said, well, we didn't understand. We thought it was just a regular data center. So with that being said, why is it being converted to industrial use now? Rezoning must serve the township master plan and public welfare, not just one speculative private user. What changed since the current zoning was adopted? What public necessity justifies the rezoning? How does a hyperscale AI data center fit the master plan? Where are some of the more, I'm just not on board with some of the independent impact studies. I don't think that there's enough yet. What are the real measurable community benefit offset to offset the burdens? The board cannot make an informed decision on an incomplete record. I'd really like each elected official to explain why residents should subsidize industrial rezoning and tax incentives for a hyperscale data center. The public deserves evidence that this was negotiated aggressively on behalf of the residents. Have you guys solicited any competing proposals? Were there any alternative sites that were evaluated? Why offer tax breaks immediately? What leverage did the township use to maximize public benefit? I am personally concerned about spot zoning. The zoning amendments tailored for a single project. Public participation has been compromised, and right now it feels hard to believe that our elected officials have acted in good faith. Why I worry about spot zoning is because the project is extremely large and intensive. It's primarily for one user rather than in a general industrial and development. It requires major utility and infrastructure upgrades that are effectively built around this one project. It may prove to function as a de facto special use approval rather than ordinary industrial development. A massive, unique project is being effectively carved out for just one single company. I could go on, but something does, it's not right. There's definitely a lot of things that need to be looked at before this is pushed through. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. I'm not supposed to do this, but I'm going to. We're not rezoning. This is zoned industrial. It's been zoned industrial since, I think, 2005. We do have other companies that want this property. We have a 400 to 600 trucking a day company that wants it. It's a major, major, major person. We also have a transmission plant that wants it. Not another 1,000 employees, a lot of trucking. You won't even be able to get off I-94 onto Haggerty Road if one of those guys got it. So there are other people that are interested in this property, but we prefer what we've got, I think, for right now. Go ahead.
Hi, Linda Stakely. I live over on Sheldon Road from Ecorse. And of course, I put up with a garbage dump. The thing that I am concerned about is how aware were you that the people that were buying the property and rezoning,
No rezoning. They were zoned, they're by right. I'm
excuse
sorry,
me,
go ahead.
the data center was added to the zoning. It was not in it. I looked at those papers. It was not in it. The state of Michigan, Jennifer Granholm, good grief, Whitmer had that added to the various zoning laws. That's new. And I want to know, when it came up, did you know that they were talking data center immediately? Or is that something that was suddenly just dropped on you after the property was zoned? What happened?
The zoning never changed.
Excuse me, sir, I will disagree with you on that. If you read those zoning laws, there was no data center listed until you changed it. Not only that, but you moved the DBLs from 60 to 70. Had you kept it at 60, the data center would not have existed. The data centers have to have a minimum of 65, but 70 to 80. You look worldwide, and that's what those wires and things are doing. So were you just sheep that didn't know what this man who was buying the property and asking it to be rezoned, did you not know? Or did you actually know at that very time that this man was planning a data center for this area? And surely, other than trucking companies who don't want to run up and down that road where the school and things is, what other things could we look at that other people would like to buy into? I mean, you know, the data center, they catch fire. Over 200 of them have caught fires. These Icon batteries are not even, the manufacturers, even Best itself, if you go out and look, they are blaming the manufacturers of all of these battery companies and saying that they are not making them correctly, and that's why there's fires. Can we afford a fire in this community? Can we afford the smoke and the things that come? And what about our firemen? I worry about our firemen because
Ma'am, your time is up, though. But thank you. Most of your questions are in our frequently asked questions. Most of those answers were there. It's only about 4 pages. Very concise. Okay. Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
Well, I'm not as well spoken as most people in this, probably 99% of people here. I just want to say that you guys are elected by the people to represent the people. And you know damn well no one here wants this data center, but you're going to push it through anyways. I just wanted to let you guys all know I think you're tyrants. Have a good night. Have the night.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Chris Girdwood with the Detroit Region Aerotropolis. I'm at 11895 Wayne Road in Romulus. About 6 years ago, we started working on understanding data centers and the impact that data centers could have to stabilize the tax base. From a municipal standpoint, what we were trying to understand is how personal and real property tax base could be stabilized by diversifying into industries of the future, which a data center is. So essentially, you've got transportation, logistics, distribution, manufacturing, which has been the bread and butter of Michigan, but not too many data centers have looked our way. And so 5 years ago, as we started to study the impact of data centers, we identified ways that you could eliminate a lot of the pressure to increase property tax on your residents by introducing data centers into your community, because they could carry some of the property tax, both real and personal burden that many residents would carry. And as we know, construction costs are going up. It's expensive to build a road. It's expensive to build a sanitary main. It's expensive to build a water main. And so By having a diversity of uses in your community, you allow the property tax benefit from a data center to continually increase or improve the public infrastructure and not have to push that burden onto your residents. And so when we look at economic development and our strategy in economic development, it's always about identifying ways to diversify the tax base. And I think data centers are not an old industry, but they're a new industry that's emerging that has proven to stabilize the tax base in many communities where they serve. For example, when you take a look at an industry like transportation and logistics, it's a shell, it's racking space, very few employees, but lots of heavy truck traffic. When we looked at data centers, what we found is that the tax base was stabilized more significantly because of the increased investment. But also what we found is that you're taking an industry that's peering into the future. It's allowing us to see what the future of jobs could be. And we always look back to Henry Ford and what Henry Ford had said when he was trying to build the automobile, and was, are we going to put the carriage makers out of business? No, he launched a brand new industry. And that industry, the automobile industry, employed many, many more people than the carriage industry ever did. And so, I think in summary, when you look at economic development, we always look at diversification of the tax base. And so Van Buren Township has a very robust retail corridor in Belleville Road. And south of 94, you've got such a beautiful agricultural industry. Now, you've also got Willow Run Airport, which is a great industrial heavy cargo user, which allows you to build a logistics and distribution network. But, a data center just adds to the benefit of the diversity you already have, and it helps stabilize the tax base in a way that, I'm sorry, I'm out of time, but you don't have to push that increase in, sorry.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Justin Robinson with the Detroit Regional Partnership. We're the regional economic development agency for the 11-county Detroit area. Our mission is to attract the next generation of companies, jobs, and investment into the region. And we've been a proud partner of Wayne County, the Detroit Regional Aerotropolis, and Van Buren Township in that work. Over the last 5 years, we've helped secure 141 new investments across the Detroit region and have generated 36,000 new jobs for our residents and almost $10 billion in new investment and tax base across Southeast Michigan. Data centers have become one of the fastest growing categories of industrial investment that we're seeing. And that's not just because of AI. It's hospitals accessing medical records. It's financial transactions clearing in real time. It's the connected infrastructure that our businesses and residents rely on in their daily lives. And so over the last 2 years, we've seen about 20 projects explore Southeast Michigan. But this is truly the best among them with the combination of Panattoni, Walbridge, and Google. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. But as Chris Goodward just shared, I think the most important impact to local communities is the impact on local tax base. This is truly an opportunity, right, to help meaningfully diversify through a mix of industrial uses. Communities that rely on a single category industrial use like manufacturing or maybe logistics, right, are less apt to be able to or withstand economic downturns. Data centers are a new category of industrial user that brings a lot of additional benefits as well. According to the Panattoni presentations previously, this project has potential to be the largest taxpayer in Van Buren Township, bringing some security in the near term and long term around that diversification. Additionally, these data center users use much less infrastructure, public support, less from schools, less on roads, less on public safety than many traditional industrial uses. So while they pay a lot in taxes, they cost a lot less in services. I think really importantly, the team here today that's assembled, Panattoni, Walbridge, and Google are among the national leaders in this space. Panattoni operates in 29 national markets, has built 630 million square feet of space. Wallbridge is headquartered here in Detroit as a national construction firm with deep experience in data centers. And Google is one of the most sophisticated technology companies on earth. So truly you have the best partners here today that can deliver on time and meet
We're all
the
set.
expectations delivered. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Courtney, and I live here in the township. I'm hearing a lot about the tax base that Google will bring here, but I haven't heard a figure. I haven't heard anybody bring up a figure. So if someone wants to enlighten us on that, I'd be
There's
happy
going to be
to hear it.
there's going to be a presentation for these things afterwards. Otherwise, everything's inside of the books
Okay.
that's received.
Besides the obvious concerns about the data center coming to our community, the whole state of Michigan has near end-of-life and in some cases actual end-of-life water infrastructure. The Great Lakes Water Authority has a massive capital improvement project underway, and by their own report, there is still infrastructure that affects Van Buren Township that will not be fully upgraded until well into 2030. Why would we add high-demand industry to aging infrastructure that is already impacting Southeast Michigan and beyond? Furthermore, the community left the Planning Commission meeting last week in a state of confusion because of the ambiguous presentation of the substation that included Panattoni speaking on their behalf, yet the application was supposedly was separate from Panattoni. We were also confused about whether or not this would also be a best station, and the commission was just as confused as the public. Transparency has been lacking from the beginning. We were not told this was a data center until December of 25. Yet as I look back through the FOIAs, I can see where Detroit Regional was providing benchmarking data on hyperscalers way back in 2021. Now we're standing here discussing providing tax relief for Google, who will be using our resources and potentially harming our environment, but asking for a tax abatement. And when I look over the tax abatement scoring tool, I noticed that Google, the applicant, received points for things that they did not do. They received credit for meeting with the community. Those points should be deducted. A meeting with Panattoni is not the same as a meeting with Google. You're reaching. They received credit for creating 51 to 199 jobs. This is a bold projection considering we know many data center jobs are temporary. Is there a formal job description for the 51 to 199 permanent sustainable jobs? They received credit for being a manufacturing facility, and they are not a traditional manufacturing facility. And that word is being manipulated for tax abatements. Those points should be removed. And then I look further into the agenda at the Memorandum of Understanding, and all I can deduce from this is that you all will make a decision to sell our resources and our health for $15 million over 10 years, which equates to about $500 per resident for Google, who is a $400 billion a year industry. So if they receive the abatement, please provide us with the dollar amount that Google will actually pay in taxes over the next 12 years if the abatement is put into place. The memorandum goes on to state that you'll use $3 million of that payout for the Lakeside project, that we can have better access to and visualization of a lake that is PFAS and phosphorus infested, according to the recent Lake Health Town Hall. And the Google data center construction will only add to that contamination. And making this project a priority while we have firefighters saying that they are understaffed is quite frankly
Ma'am?
alarming.
Yeah, it's time. Thank you. Yeah, just let me auto see that. I didn't see that, so.
My name is Marla, and I live on Bemis Road, and I was here last week on the bus build it. We were never told that you were going to add a nuclear part to it. Not once was ever added to that. So I would like to know, when did it get added?
They never did. Nuclear part? I'm sorry.
Did you not say that you were going to add a
No.
nuclear part to the
No,
center?
it's in the frequently asked questions. It's clear that there's not going to be any nuclear portion of this.
Because I know firsthand what nuclear does. My brother-in-law works for him. He's a foreman for him. And I know that they do not tell you, unless it gets out of hand, that there has been a problem.
There's no nuclear.
I do know that they have to clean them up every 2 years, but is it in writing that you are not adding anything nuclear to it? It is
It is
just
in writing.
batteries?
I believe it's in writing. Director Akers? It's in the frequently asked questions that they promised, they, in an open meeting, they said there was not going to be anything. Yeah. They're not going to.
Okay. And as far as the BES, you put in,
It's not about BES. That's not on the agenda today. This is a public hearing on this issue, not BES.
the data center?
Just the data center.
And when will you have it on BES?
I don't know.
Because that really does concern all of us, because BES is going to serve the data center.
But that's okay. We'll deal with BES at another date, okay?
Oh.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jackie, and I'm from Oakland County, and I just want to say that I think it's ridiculous that you would even be considering tax breaks for the villains who want to come here and destroy this beautiful area and make life harder on residents. An argument could be made somewhere that you all are just misinformed and naive to believe that putting in a hyperscale data center would not have the catastrophic negative impact on your community that it will. But I will not be making that argument. I really do want to believe in a world where you all are not being intentionally malicious, though. But considering tax breaks for multi-billion-dollar corporations that would allow them to make more money off of exploiting your community makes it really hard to imagine anything otherwise. There is no justification for approving potentially millions of dollars in tax breaks for Google, period, but especially off of the destruction of your community. It's not enough that they would be coming in here using an obscene amount of public resources and straining your infrastructure. You want them to be able to do so for virtually free, without paying into the public services that would help schools, libraries, and even your local government. Again, devil's advocate. If I were inviting a data center in to exploit my community, I'd at least try to make it work to my advantage wherever possible. This tax break deal is shamelessly one-sided, and frankly, it's embarrassing for you all to even consider it. Do not roll out the red carpet for these corporations to come and exploit Michigan. You are in a position of power, and you need to use every single tool at your disposal to stop this from happening. No data centers and no tax breaks for the ultra-wealthy. Please. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead. Yeah, thank you.
I'm Gene Agnone, a resident of Wayne County. I think we all know that pretty much everything we do in our personal lives and in business is supported by data centers. From the minute we wake up to the minute we go to bed, our phones, our banking, our healthcare systems, everyday streaming, shopping, social media, all relies heavily on data centers. And the need for data centers continues to grow along with technology. There's a lot more that I was going to say, but I think I'd be reiterating a lot of what Mr. Girdwood and Mr. Robinson said from the DRP. But I would like to say that I'm also very much aware of what's going on in the area as far as other users that have been looking at this site. Heavy trucking off of 94 in Haggerty would likely also occur. And the fact that you have two of the most renowned companies in the world, Google and Panattoni, a world-renowned developer, working on this project, I think sends a message that Van Buren Township is ready to take the next step into the future and attract more high-paying, high-tech jobs. Therefore, I encourage and support this project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, if the supervisor's not gonna say it, I'm gonna say it. I think at the beginning of the meeting, Trustee Boyden read our policy, and I would appreciate it if you were here to it. We are sitting here respectfully listening to every speaker that come up here. You don't hear us catcalling. You don't hear us heckling. We are paying attention to the speaker. We're listening to what you have to say. And I appreciate if you respectfully do the same. That's all we're asking. Thank you. Okay, well, you could.
Yeah, one
if
more.
You do, if you do
one,
that again,
you know what?
You can
If that
escort
happens
him out.
again, you're going to be asked to leave. Go ahead. Thank you, sir.
For me to step up. Hi, my name is John. I'm from the community.
This is my first time here, so I don't know what decisions you guys have made, so I'm being respectful of that. That's not what I'm here about. I'm here to talk about a personal situation that I have that references how they're trying to ask for a tax break. So, you know, maybe they're going to bring jobs in the area, but if you guys have multiple different companies that are trying to come to the area, I don't quite understand the tax breaks. And let me talk about my personal point of why they don't get a tax break, because I never got one. So I recently bought a house here about a year ago. My house, the guy before me was 89 years old. He had 9 cats, had 2 sons that were on disability. They smoked cigarettes in the house. The whole house was rotting. Deck was rotting off the back of the house. All of my fascia boards on the outside of the house are rotten with carpenter bees. The whole house is falling down. All of my neighbors have blight. The yard looks like crap. And I come into this community and I go to buy the house, and who's trying to buy the house? Another corporate business. So my realtor, granted she was great for me, asked that selling realtor what was going on, how much were they selling the house for? The sale price was this. This company that was coming in to buy the house said, I will pay $5,000 more than every offer, up to $50K over asking price. So I came in, I offered the $50K over asking price, and I wrote a letter to the owner, because that's my only way of, as a person, to get a house nowadays. You can't get one as a young man. You can't. So I came in, I bought this house, well over value for something that's kind of a dump, but I needed a house in the short term. So I bought it. So a year later, as everybody knows, your house is up for reappraisal by the community, and they can tell you how much it's worth. So this district told me that my house was worth $75,000 more than I bought it for. Granted, I bought it $50,000 over asking. So we're already at $125,000 over what it's really worth. And I have to come in and present my case, show 57 pictures of all of I ripped the deck off the back of the house, ripped the fascia boards off the house, ripped all the carpet out of the house, did everything to this house. I'm helping snow blow my neighbor's driveway, who's 93 years old. I'm helping weed whack his house. I'm trying to provide for my community. And granted, I can't bring a letter from my neighbors to ask you guys for a tax break, but they can just say they're bringing business so they can ask for a tax break. That's not fair. We got plenty of other businesses that'll pay for it. So if anything, make them pay the taxes, because our community could use it. You guys could use it. I could use it. We could all use it. Make this building twice what it is, put a bigger gym in there. I would love it. Just let's make them pay the taxes if they're going to come into our community. It's only fair. And to me paying over asking, if you want to say that's what it was worth, well, houses last year weren't sitting on the market. I needed a house. I was losing my rental. The people were selling it, which is fine. But now this year houses are sitting. So really it wasn't worth that. And the owner bought it for $100,000 less than I bought it for 15 years ago and just let it rot. And then I come and my price is doubled for taxes. Doesn't make sense.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Bill. Thank you. Go ahead, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Debbie. I would first like to remind you that most of you ran unopposed, so you're here by default. And I want you to understand that when you're speaking to some of the members that are here to address you relating to their concerns, especially some of the elderly people, which would include me, that doesn't understand all this, but I'm smart enough to know that I don't like what's going on in my community. I was supposed to be at work tonight, but I called in sick. And it was after I received the minutes for the last meeting. And I just want you to follow me because it all comes together. So with the last meeting, the minutes reflected somebody that was turned down for a car wash. Granted, we don't need another car wash on Belleville Road. I get it. Could have been a tattoo parlor, a massage parlor. It doesn't matter. You guys denied the permit for the building based on traffic, safety, noise, operational impact to the city, water runoff, and tree removal. And I wrote this down because your words were directly, the record does not demonstrate the use is designed and proposed to be operated to protect public health, safety, and welfare. So somebody couldn't have a car wash, but we're here to debate a 300, 400 acre data center. Make that make sense. So we're worried about water runoff on Belleville Road when we have environmental degradation, grid instability, climate change, public health risks, resource depletion, energy consumption. noise, vibration pollution, light pollution, surging utility bills, brownouts, and outages, pollutants to Belleville Lake and Huron River, wildlife, temporary jobs, and then with the creation of limited jobs. And trust me, I respect all this skilled trades being here. I'm a union person of 39 years, but for them to stack this hall above the residents is highly inappropriate. Highly inappropriate. I get that you guys want work, I get it. And you say, I don't even know what your signs say, but it was economic growth. Your economic growth shouldn't be to the detriment of my community. And I need you to think of that, because you're gonna come in, you're gonna make $100K this year, and in 10 years, after you've totally shit all over my city, you're not even gonna remember what you paid the 100 grand for. Do you understand? What did you spend that money on when you destroyed my city? And how are you gonna come through? People build bridges, they build skyscrapers. How are you gonna come through with your kids and tell them you built this data center and destroyed all of our resources? It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. And most importantly, the most important resource of all of this is our children. Let's not even talk about the long-term damage that we might not even be aware of, because these data centers are fairly new. Several candidates had a profile in 7-Eleven of 24.
If you don't
They
yield the
talked about the
microphone, I'm
future of
going
the
to
city.
ask you to leave.
Improving the lives of our residents, promote our
Sergeant,
townships.
can you ask her to step outside, please?
Fostering trust and collaboration, community connections, be a part of decision makings to keep Van Buren Township
Escort
a
her
great
out.
place to live. You guys are all a bunch of
Time to go.
grifters and liars. No,
Time to go,
don't touch me. You're a bunch of grifters and liars.
ma'am. Yeah, you will be. Okay, excuse me, ma'am, but you don't get a second speak on this one, on this time. No, at the next one, I'll allow a second one, but yeah, but thank you.
Oh boy, I hope these guys vote your asses out of here. I'm so sick of this stuff here. You've been asking for it. Ain't none of you worthy, especially you, Leon. Boo. So you're gonna arrest somebody if they say boo?
Arrested, she's being escorted out.
The difference between yes is no. If we don't like what you're doing, we can say no. You're gonna throw people out because they boo these clowns? Really? Amen. Right?
I'm not gonna.
Boo. Boo on
Okay.
all you. Find another job. Your time's numbered.
Thank you, next. Go ahead.
My name's David Harwood. I'm a. There we go. Better? Okay. My name's David Harwood. I'm a resident of the Haggerty sub. I'm standing here tonight to express the profound outrage of the community, as well as that Haggerty sub. That's been
Excuse me, no talking in the crowds, please. Thank you.
The community has been systematically been sold out by the very people sworn to protect it. The approval of this hyperscale data center and bleak testament to where this loyalty of this board truly lies. It's simple math. If we're looking at this as a financial justification for this project, it's absolute insult to our intelligence. We're talking about Google, one of the wealthiest companies in the world, and we're allowing for this absolute no logic reason for why a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate needs to have corporate welfare and tax breaks to build on our land. The reported revenue coming out from this township is like there's $15 million. Google's $15 million of Google's couch change. That's less than a 1,000th of a percent of their income. So this is nothing to them. So the fact that you're scalping us for $500 ahead of our township, it's just ridiculous. For what it costs for this board to sell is for their peace of mind. This is pocket change that's traded for the property values of our homes. You wiped out generational wealth of ordinary families, their homes, and bow down to industrial greed. At the end of this, you're not defending a township. You're not doing any kind of stance of voting yes or no for what's for the best of this township. You're just managing a corporate buyout. Anyone thinking that voting yes on this tonight, making this perfectly clear, rubber stamp, sign, however the hell you do it, all you're doing is voting yourself out of office. Simple as that. We're organized, furious, and at this point, we're making it a personal mission to ensure none of your seats are the same as next year. You will lose your seats, your titles, your political futures, all of it. We'll remind you that this vote will show in history of those who have made a terrible decision to destroy a township. Is that just a thing we're doing nowadays? Is we're just going to look back and go, man, I could have learned from a terrible decision. Like, I'll make it this time. Don't worry. I know that it just doesn't make any sense. This came to this township initially as a home buyer to start a family. I have a child. This is utter bullshit is what it comes down to. I am now looking to move, to not be associated with this, not have my home lose its value, to not go through all this stuff. The work that we put into this place, the work that I do, is not necessary. It doesn't make sense that we're having struggling families with below $100,000 a year as the median income of this township, and you're allowing for the possibility for a company to come in for such a low dollar, and then also the opportunity for tax breaks. Bullshit. Simple bullshit. So, shame on you guys. Have a great day.
Hello to the board and everybody else in here. My name is Caleb. One point of interest is, before this all started, I was asked if I was paid to be here. And what's interesting to me is if a similar question of benefit has been made regarding the community adjacent to this data center. How are they benefiting from this? Now, one thing is the Eagle permit has not been approved yet, and this is for the generators and cooling towers. Now, the cooling towers, half of which will be open loop, which means that the water that has fungicides, biocides, corrosion inhibitors will be exposed to the air outside, and the manufacturer calls it drift. That's how much is spit out into the air every day. Now, over the course of a month, do we know what kind of impact that has? We're talking about hundreds, if not thousands of gallons of water with chemicals in it, and this is right across the street from a neighborhood and on wetlands, which interfaces with the groundwater and the ecosystem in the area. Last week, we heard from one of the residents who has a well not 100 yards from this. What's he gonna do when his well water is drawing up funky stuff from these cooling towers? Has that question been asked? How are residents gonna be affected by this? And until there has been an independent environmental impact analysis, we really have to make sure that the harms have been fully addressed, recognized for the residents. And until this third-party analysis is done, we can't responsibly move forward with this. And then one thing is Google/Pantone, because I'm not sure if Google is actually here, haven't made clear to the public how this will be a net fiscal benefit to the township. Because has the job creation been clearly demonstrated, right? On the form, the checklist, 51 to 199. Right? These data centers are run by skeleton crews. We all know that. I mean, the initial construction, obviously the people in this room have a vested interest to make sure that goes through with it, and I support them in the ability to help their families. But their work does not have to come at the expense of residents in the area. There are alternatives. They can have work on a job that doesn't come at the cost of people nearby, in their property values, as we've heard before, and in their health, which we don't fully know the full risks of this yet. So we have to do also, on top of the environmental analysis, an independent fiscal impact analysis. We haven't really been sold on this as a project. So I think that's worth considering, and to move forward with this, with anything, anything but a postponement, or if outright denial, would be irresponsible of this board at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Most of those answers are in the frequently asked questions, and Eagle will have to give them permits. Thank you. Were you already up?
No.
Okay.
Thank you. My name is Vanessa. I am a resident here of Van Buren and a daughter of the woman that you had escorted out of the room a few minutes ago. I will be honest that I am ignorantly new to this, new to being here. I won't be able to speak to any of the laws, things on the environment and zoning, most certainly not your frequently asked questions that you keep referring to tonight. But what I can speak to, sitting here as a first-time Van Buren resident and watching you, Kevin, sit here with such little regard for the people that I believe elected you onto this pedestal that you sit on. I've watched you roll your eyes, interrupt speakers, gaslight grown adults, and act like it's a bother for you to be here while checking the time as your speakers are up here. Regardless of what you've already decided on, these are your people here who have taken time out of their night to be here to speak their concerns with you. I'm pretty sure what's done is done, but your demeanor here tonight has answered all of the questions that I have about what's in the future for my city without having to check your frequently asked questions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Go ahead. Thank you.
My name is Tracy Osborne, and I live at 10800 Hannon Road. My property sits directly adjacent to the proposed 282-acre footprint for Project Cannoli. While my land is technically zoned M1, it is grandfathered single-family residential home. Under Michigan law, my home is a legal non-conforming use. I am not an empty industrial lot on a map. I am a living, breathing resident whose daily life and basic survival utilities are about to be bordered by a 1 gigawatt hyperscale data center. I'm here tonight because Project Cannoli poses an immediate catastrophic threat to my home's infrastructure. My household does not use township water or sewer. We rely entirely on a private 15-foot shallow well that is fed by a natural underground spring and an active on-site septic system. Because my water comes from the topmost layer of the water table, my utilities are uniquely fragile. The developer plans to dig massive foundations and fill in areas of local wetlands right next to me. Excavation and heavy ground vibrations can easily collapse or redirect the shallow subterranean veins feeding my spring, potentially drying out my well completely. Therefore, before any final site plans or building permits are approved, I am demanding 2 specific protections. First, a localized hydrogeological study to prove excavation won't cut off my spring-fed well. And second, a third-party sound study to assess the developer's engineering firm's sound prediction and guarantee there will be no impact from low-frequency noise from the development. I'm currently capturing certified professional pre-construction baselines of my well water flow, the water quality, and septic integrity. I've spoken directly to a certified sound engineer who has already documented that the engineering firm that the developer is using is not qualified to assess the sound of such a large development, and that's with another project in the area. If this project destroys my spring-fed water, or if any persistent low-frequency noise, i.e. infrasound or vibration from the development affects my special needs daughter and becomes a nuisance, I will hold both Van Buren Township and the developers fully liable for all damages. Please treat my home like a home with humans that live there and not a zoning technicality. Thank you.
Hello, I appreciate your time. My name's Robert. I just would like you guys to raise your hands if you are all willing to move within a mile or so of the data center. Would anybody do that? You guys would all do that? Yeah? Really? Okay, well, that'd be the first thing I'd love to see. Do you? Okay, well, good for you. I'd love to see all of you live close by. But to me, it's common sense here is lacking sometimes with people in politics. You mentioned a transmission plant, 2,000 people compared to 25 people full-time at a data center. The math doesn't even add up there. I'll take the 2,000 people. You guys can figure out how to make the roads more accessible for 2,000 employees. That's pretty simple. How many people are going to be on the board 20 years from now saying, hey, this was a great idea, when you don't know the effects of pollution, noise, and everybody knows all the detriments of a data center and what could happen. Who's going to be here 10, 15 years from now? What happens when the technology changes and all of a sudden a data center says, hey, we don't need to be here anymore. We figured out a different way to get all the data in and out of where it needs to go. Who's going to be here for that? It's a long-term 10, 15 years, nobody knows. So I just hope you guys take due diligence to look into everything, because you're supposed to be protecting the community. I understand there's workers that want to work. I was a union worker for 30-something years. I hope they find jobs and they get jobs. But at the end of the 3 or 4 years, it's 25 jobs, 30 jobs at the most permanent. Do we really need that for the detriment of what could happen 20, 25 years down the road? Nobody knows. So I just hope you guys do your job. There's due diligence and there's transparency. It seems like we need more of that. Reading things, not everybody here reads everything that you talk about that's online for everybody to look at. But let's do what we can and do the right thing. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to close the public hearing. Can I get a motion to close the public hearing now?
You got somebody coming back up.
Correct. They-
sorry.
When does rebuttal happen?
Not on, it is at the chairman, you don't get a rebuttal during the public hearing. You do during the next one, though.
You
So
mentioned
you
that
are
we had
gonna-
a minute and a half chair.
You're going to get one, and the next one, public comment, you're going to get 3 minutes and a rebuttal.
I'm requesting what you promised, a 1 minute and a half rebuttal.
Again, you got it.
Somebody rewind
it
the
wrong.
tape and let me
No,
know
that's
if
okay.
we've
You can show me
heard.
later on. Can I get a motion to go out of public hearing?
So moved.
Can I get a second? Hearing no discussion, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? We are out of public hearing now. We're going into correspondence, announcements, and presentations, and then we're going back into public comment where you get to go again.
Thank you, Your Honor. And is
Okay.
it regarding this subject matter or a different one?
Okay, we're going to do, we're going to go into, we don't have any presentations, so let's go right into the,
We should be to this after, if there's no announcements, any more correspondence or announcements. Then we're public.
okay. So you know what? I'm going to do a presentation. I'm going to do my presentation, which is basically answering most of your questions in my own way. And then we're going to go to public comment, and we can do this all over again. I am. I'm actually presentations. So basically, I wrote this thing out just because I thought it was. We keep on getting the same questions, and quite frankly, the answers were there, but but nobody seems to hear them. But this property was zoned industrial in 2005. I am the biggest hater of zoning in the entire world because I think that it's ridiculous that people can zone property 40 years ago and make determinations of what we have to live with today. But the fact of the matter is, it's zoned industrial. The state of Michigan has extreme laws on what rights, individual rights, community rights, and property rights. The person that owned the property has property rights to sell his property to an industrial developer. It has always been industrial. Unfortunately, we have a wonderful community with two problems. One is we're all two-lane roads. Two is we're bordering two of the biggest freeways in the state of Michigan, 94 and 275. That brings in nothing but truck traffic, and we are constantly trying to duck truck traffic around here. So we try purposely to avoid traffic, trucking companies. We try to avoid warehousing companies. We hate distribution companies, big ones like Walmart and Costco and things like that. Amazon, we fought like hell not to get an Amazon here. We didn't need 1,000 vans. They tie up everything. We loved data centers here. We have the largest data center in the state of Michigan right now, JP Morgan Chase, and nobody seems to know it exists because it's quiet. It's clean. So we, in 2018, had a community-wide thing where we had workshops, and we called everybody in. We sent out stuff to homes. We put little QWERTY tents on tables and said, how would you like your community to be zoned? Where would you like parks? Where would you like data centers? And people of our community said they wanted data centers in industrial zone, which is the highest, most intensive use. This property was zoned industrial. Along came Panettone. We thought it was warehousing that they were looking at. We weren't really excited about the fact that we were going to end up more trucking. I have to admit that we found out it was going to be a data center. We were kind of happy until Facebook hit. And when Facebook hit, our jaws dropped. We didn't realize that there was this much problem with data centers in our communities. So everybody here was upset. I was upset, a sleepless month. But then we started looking into all these Facebook claims. And quite frankly, I'm going to tell you, I haven't seen a single solitary Facebook claim against the data center that's true. They're all misinformation. I'm going to tell you what we have done. We have listened to you in every single solitary question, and because we listened to you, we basically made a stronger agreement that's going to be presented later on. Sound. We went to Ohio, we went to Google Center there, and we actually listened to it. We sent engineers down there, and we did sound studies on it. We walked the neighborhoods, and we listened and talked to people. They don't care. In fact, New Albany is nicer than Ann Arbor or Birmingham or Bloomfield. It's a gorgeous community. But the fact of the matter is, we heard you that you're concerned about sound. So we wrote it into this agreement that we're approving maybe today that basically says that they're going to agree to continuous monitoring of sound at the data center. And the fines they lose the tax deal if they break those sound deals. We added in, we heard about the water thing. We, according to our people, it's going to reduce our water prices. If you think about it, we sell 2 million gallons of water a day. 60% of that is our fixed costs in Van Buren Township. All of a sudden, you're selling 5 million gallons a day and you have no additional fixed costs. You pretty much wipe out your old fixed costs so your price goes down. But we heard you over and over about that worry. So we built it into this agreement that water prices are going to be negotiated and that Google will hold the community harmless to make sure that it goes, to make sure that that the community does not have to pay more money for water. We can literally actually sever them off the residential section of it and form up to make sure we keep our low water rates. We have the lowest water rates in the region by far, and because of Google being here, they will continue to be the lowest water rates for the next 10 years. We also, we heard a lot of other things too. I talked to the community leaders. They loved Google. I talked to the schools. They liked them. They had robotics groups that came in for all the middle school kids, and they gave them each a Lego robot and taught them how to program them. They all walked out with robots. The schools loved them. They helped out. They got involved in the community. I heard one overall reoccurring theme with every group I talked to down there, and it was, thank God Google came there and not some of the other ones that I won't mention. And they have everything we've asked for. We wanted big berms, 15-foot high berms, 14-foot high trees, 30-foot high. You're not going to be able to see the thing. Everything we've asked for, they've given us. So I am not so against data centers anymore. And if one person could tell me one thing on Facebook that was true, that would be bad for our community, because they're not using they're using tap water. They're circulating it out. They're sending it out through a sanitary sewer, and it's going back to the Detroit River. What else is there? Energy. They are starting a $10 million fund through the Public Service Commission when they get approved, and that $10 million fund is to do power, it's impact fund, to help local residents improve their power generation by insulation, windows, storm, basic weatherization kind of routines, and to make sure that Van Buren Township, in the, as they put it, the hyper-local area that they want to disperse the money, they've allowed us to have a position on the board, and I've asked Kevin Martin to be on that board to make sure that Van Buren residents, Haggerty sub, majority-wise, gets their share of that money to improve their community and their houses. Contractors, we have written into this agreement something to save our business, but help our businesses. Our contractors in our community got $100 million plus worth of construction contracts that are going to come out of it. It's written into the agreement. Most of them have been contacted. A lot of them are in this audience. This is life-changing money. These are not big-time corporate contractors. These are our mom-and-pop contractors that are suddenly going to have enough money to build homes. A lot of them already are building homes. They're building shops. They're building strip malls, and we know their names. We see them out there all the time. They reinvest in their community. It was important that we made sure money came back to Van Buren Township. $10 million in weatherization, $15 million in tax incentives, $100 million to our local excavating companies, our trucking companies, our contracting companies, our skilled tradesmen. We've talked to the unions. Our skilled tradesmen from Van Buren Township, our working union brothers, get to go and work at this site. They can transfer from any other site, and they're allowed to transfer into this one. That's another thing that we worked out inside of this thing. There's a lot of very positives here. And if there was a sound problem,
Come back a little bit from the mic.
What?
Step back a little bit from the mic. so it
if
won't-
there was a sound problem, we've got it covered because we're going to be allowed to continue monitoring. If there's a water problem, they can't take from the aquifer, so there's not going to be a water problem. But if they do, we're going to be adding that in there too, that they can't use the water. They can't discharge anything. They have no settling ponds open. They're all enclosed. There's nothing else that you guys have brought up that, quite frankly, they don't already, that we haven't covered. And we covered it because we heard you say it. And we wanted to make sure it was covered. So I just want to let you know we did hear you. Everything you've asked for tonight, we put into here. So I'm going to go forward and say, I'm going to reopen it for the public comment section. This is a public comment. This will be the last 3 minutes and the last 90 seconds that you'll have to speak on this before the board will debate and vote. So we're reopening public comment. Come forward if you'd like.
My name is Anna Loringer. I live in Van Buren Township. A question when you were talking about your proposal, you said if the sound goes above what?
Decibel.
That they would lose their tax agreement. Is that meaning this tax
It
abatement
is worded
agreement?
exactly that way, that if they go over 67 decibels and they don't get it back under control, then we have the right to go back to the state of Michigan and say, and the FTAC.
So does that mean that they?
Is that the
you
way
are-
it's, is Ron, is that the way it's stated? Yeah.
The question is then, does that mean that that tax abatement or tax exemption already exists if it's written into that contract?
No, it does not exist
Because the way you
yet.
said it made
No.
it sound like
No.
they would lose their tax agreement.
In the IFTEC, the IFTEC, Ron, is that the right one?
While he's looking, I have one other question. You said something about a booklet that was sent. Did all of us in Van Buren get some kind of
We
booklet?
put it on our website, and we actually took out 5 pages of the newspaper to make sure we got it out there. It was, yeah.
So it wasn't mailed to us?
No.
Okay.
Can you,
Wait for him to look for that, and I'll let somebody else speak. But again, I am against us giving them
Ron.
a tax abatement.
no, I'm sorry, my director. Ron, can you,
So the IFTA agreement has provisions in it where if they don't comply with some of the standards and some of the agreements that they're considering, where the tax abatements can be revoked if they don't comply with conditions of the permits.
there you go.
It was hard even for me to hear you.
Thank you.
So, no, with the IFTE agreements, there are provisions where if they don't satisfy the requirements of some of those agreements and some of those items out of the IFTE agreements, that the township board can appeal to the state tax commission and have them revoke the abatement.
Exactly. So in other words, they have to operate the way they say they're going to operate, or they lose this. Okay?
Already decided that they get a tax abatement.
No, we have not decided that yet.
Okay, I've lived in Haggerty Sub since 1973. If I was to come to any one of you and ask for a tax break, you'd laugh me out of the building. I don't understand how someone that makes over $850 million a day has the balls, excuse my language, to come before us and ask for a tax break. And as far as trusting DTE, I have a parent that's on 24/7 oxygen, and because of their electric in our subdivision has been so poor, I spent over $10,000 and had a Generac put in to make sure my dad had oxygen 24/7. So, and now you want me to trust that DTE is going to have our backs now? And they're asking for $11 every month on everybody that lives here on our bills to cover this project. I don't want to cover 1 cent of this project. I don't want this project. I'm totally against raising my bill 1 cent. You know, and I don't understand you people. You're supposed to be for us. And you have made us feel like we're the last thing on your list. You sit, you act like you're tired of hearing us, you're bored, and you just want us to go away. We live right by it. If it was in your backyard, I bet you'd be right up here with us. Yes, you would. You'd be right up here with us. You'd be probably screaming louder than us, because you live over here, we're off the lake and that you don't have to worry about it. And it's just not fair. And especially to the young people that live in this subdivision, we have a lot of young people. Not just old people, we're not low-income people. I am nowhere near low-income people, trust me. And it's like, but that's how you treat that subdivision, like they're beneath you. You know, and I agree. I want to see this whole board. I actually would like to request your resignation. I demand your resignation. That's what I want. I want all of you to resign your positions and let us start over. That's what we need.
Thank you.
Jen Smith, again. I want to make it very clear that it takes a lot to make me shake. And I am so mad right now because you, Mr. Kevin McNamara, have lied blatantly over and over. Oh, don't make that face to me, sir. I just took 2 seconds to Google, and here is a University of Michigan study that was released in July of 2025. That's like 10 minutes down the road, okay? So this is not hard to find. What happens when data centers come to town? I would be happy to airdrop this to anyone that would want to see. So the intro is the rapid growth of data centers with their enormous energy and water demands necessitates targeted policy interventions to mitigate environmental impacts and protect local communities. To address these issues, states with existing data center tax breaks should adopt sustainable growth policies for data centers, mandating energy audits, strict performance standards, and renewable energy integration, while also requiring transparency, which is something that this board has no frickin' clue about, in energy usage reporting. Renewable energy additionality clauses should ensure data centers contribute to renewable capacity rather than relying on existing resources. If these resource measures provide insufficient, states should consider repealing tax breaks to slow unsustainable data center growth. I understand that Governor Whitmer has not tried to slow this down. That's beside the point for today. It goes on to say, key findings: increased utility rates, high resource consumption, ineffective tax incentives, climate and energy challenges, resource efficient trade-offs, policy solutions. So where in this you're saying that there's no findings, but the University of Michigan spent all this money and didn't find any findings? Also, how many frickin' jobs are actually going to be given? Because the tax incentive only says there has to be 30. And how are we monitoring that? And for how many years do those 30 jobs need to be there? These are low job. I would rather see a trucking facility. And also, I cannot wait to make sure that every single one of you are recalled, because we already have a lawyer and it's happening.
Okay, can y'all hear me okay? Okay. Good evening. My name's Austin. I live in the township. I also have like really bad public speaking anxiety. My hand is like shaking. So it takes a lot for me to get up here and do this kind of thing. But I guess I haven't really received a satisfactory answer yet as to why a 12-year tax abatement is being pursued in the first place for a company that has essentially limitless wealth. I guess that's just the one thing this evening that I can't wrap my mind around. And I hear Mr. McNamara, you giving this flowery rendition of all the wonderful things that this is going to do for our community. And maybe we were raised differently. I was raised to not trust corporations and politicians for that matter. But I guess that's just one thing I don't understand.
That's
And
a fair question that should be answered. That is a fair question that should be answered, and I'm going to do it. It's your time. If you want to go on, then I'll answer afterwards. Go ahead.
And I just wanted to complete my thought by saying, I'm losing my train of thought at this point, but that
Right.
I don't support the way this has been handled, and I find it very aggravating and frustrating, and I'm embarrassed and ashamed to admit that I voted for most of you sitting up here this evening. Thank you for your time.
Is this thing on? Yeah, okay. So I am going to answer that one question because that question is a fair question. Why are we giving 50% tax break to a $1 trillion company? The reason being, quite frankly, is we have a policy that we consider them all on these things, but I'm going to go through the whole story. You consider them on all of them, and the state of Michigan has the power to do it. Once the district is claimed, is established, Aerotropolis can do it, Van Buren can do it, and the old adage is basically you have to do it before the next guy does it because you get to cut the deal, and you get to basically set up the thing where you get to say, okay, if you go over the 27 decibels or you do over whatever you do, then you're going to lose your tax deal. You basically can set up the penalties. But more importantly than that, the reason you do it is because, like you don't trust me, and I don't trust them either. Because if I don't do it, they're going to do it, and then they're going to get whatever the thing is, or they're going to do worse to me, which is what they've always seemed to do to us around here. Data centers and industrial projects is when it comes to personal property, the state as Michigan has a habit of exempting them. So yes, we have the largest data center in the state of Michigan, or one of the largest data centers in the state of Michigan, but the state of Michigan has exempted them because they're a bank and they say, oh, your computers don't count. We have US Signal, another data center. We've sent them a tax bill. They sent it back to us, say, we don't pay taxes. The state of Michigan, we got to deal with them. So they got cut out of all those things. So yes, Van Buren Township directly is cutting its taxes in half. But Van Buren Township is taking back all of that half in a pre-deal where we're getting our money up front, and we're establishing a $100 million fund for our local contractors, and we're establishing some weatherization money, and we're establishing some job fairs, and we're establishing that we're going to get some jobs, and we're establishing that we're going to have some controls over the corporation in the future. So yes, we are cutting taxes in half for everybody but technically Van Buren, because we're getting all of our money that we're cutting up front in the $15 million. So it is fair to ask why we're doing it. It's not a pretty reason, but it's the way it is. And it's the truth. So that's why. That's the answer. I'm all done. Ashley, go ahead.
Okay, thanks for the lesson on gaslighting. I appreciate that, especially with my children here.
Mhm.
Second off,
Why else would?
I'm talking. So I think the other issue is you're saying we're doing this with weatherization. We're doing this. Did you ask us what we wanted out of that money? Because the thing is, I don't think anybody in the Haggerty sub wanted to pay for their own sidewalk or a portion of it. Second off, I think another issue is we never met with Google. We met with developers who were rude and dismissive. And then to say, well, we have to make all our check boxes for taxes Well, our attorney recommended sections of the state and legal advice may be subject to attorney-client privilege and not available under FOIA. Oh, that FOIA that we have publicly now showing that hyperscales were a talk since 2020, the thing that Chris Gerwood said, you don't zone by right unless you want data centers here, when he talked about Huron Township and boasted Van Buren Township on leading the charge, but you didn't know about data centers, right? And another thing is, the data centers, yes, we know. Yes, we use computers. Yes, you don't need to gaslight us. They've been here for many years. I have relatives who have worked for JP Morgan Chase, so please stop. There's a very distinct difference in a hyperscale and a regular data center. We know this. And to really conflate that, like, oh, we're just looking on Facebook, I'm sorry, I have a master's degree. Do you? No, please stop putting us researchers down, because it had nothing to do with Facebook. Dr. Green and other providers at University of Michigan and other schools who have dedicated their life to studying technology, community health impacts, have been very open about, yes, there can be some benefits, but also you shouldn't live next to them. And I think about what are we doing in terms of individuals like Mr. Osborne. They literally have a straw in the ground sucking up water. And unless this township is okay with this FOIA being, or the information not being FOIAble, saying, hey, you know what, we do have to give tax stuff, but like everything needs to be transparent, then maybe we would have some respect for you all. But what has been shown is blatantly is the continuous lies, the continuous covers up, the continuous gaslighting, instead of just being like, hey, we sold you out, sorry, but like we're trying to make up to it. What can we actually do for you? Instead of deciding that we need weatherization when other programs are already giving us weatherization for our homes. Nobody asked for that. We asked for sewer to not back up into our basement. Now we have to worry about vibrations causing the break, just like it did in Southwest. So please respect us as a community and stop talking down to us. I think that is the thing that's been shown, that none of you have spoke up to the chair at all. So when they say, hey, who are we actually recalling? I say recall all your asses.
Thank you, sir.
This is actually a direct question to you. So this was brought up again back in, I believe, April or probably February. So for the record, you said it's tap water coming through the system, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, that is wrong. It is blatantly wrong. It is absolutely wrong. And unless there's a member of Google standing behind me, not a goon, I don't want anyone from any of the product, I want someone who works for the company to come up and say, on the record, that it is tap water. Otherwise, based on math, it'll be over 200,000 gallons of additives a day to run through that system. That's biocides, anti-corrosives, anything like that. If anyone who owns a water loop computer knows that has to happen. They will tarnish their system if they just use tap water. So whether it does go through the recycle, it's the volume of that is not added. It's not counted for. So again, I understand that there was how these things were put in, what laws and things were put in place, but the fact of the matter is the frustration that mostly all of us have is that it's just taken advantage of. It's very simple. How our rules and how our zoning was set up basically allowed for this to come in. They swooped in, saw they fit that point. We were taken advantage of. You haven't admitted that. You didn't do your due diligence. You didn't do any kind of research realistically to how bad that thing is. Again, we're months into this and you're still saying tap water. And it's just blatantly wrong. It's just wrong. It's arrogant and it's disrespectful to continuously say, oh, that's just what it is. That's what it is. It's not. So all these things that you say, when that simple fact is wrong, everything else is seen as incorrect. Like, we don't trust any other words when you can't even get a basic fact of how a computer system, whether it's hyperscale or a small desktop, works. So just admit that you didn't do your due diligence, you were taken advantage of, or admit that you sought them out. It's one of the two. That's all I'm asking.
Thank you.
Mother, may I?
Yes, you may.
Appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. So I want to look to you directly, and this is also to Brian Cullen. I think I said his name right. I'm just learning this new cast of characters. You have all been on record promising, and you did tonight, that my home value will not change. Sir, put your money where your mouth is. If you keep repeating it, protect my home value. Have the courage to do so. Okay? Any comments? Because you do comment when you get an opportunity.
According to the George Mason University program that just came out yesterday, these do not affect home prices.
Prove it. Put your money where your mouth is. And that's an easy one, sir.
Yeah.
If you know factually, put your money where your mouth is and protect our home values. Anybody with 1 mile radius, protect it. Do it. You say it won't hurt anything. I challenge you. Poker challenge. I don't. I'm playing fair. Do it. Okay. Now, you keep referring back to the frequently asked questions. I comb through it every day. Ron Akers, I am your stalker. I read it every day. Please quit talking about how great it is, and please quit telling people who took their time to come here to refer back to it. And the smile on your face is incredibly annoying. Okay. I asked this township to really pay attention if this board turns over to Aerotropolis and Detroit Regional. They are part of the problem, and they are what is bringing this type of projects to our environment. We do not have to pay for them. They cost us $25,000. I'm not sure what else, but annual dues. They are paid by our taxes. We need to stop that. I don't normally do so. I think it's a semantic issue when we talk about nuclear. I can't see the future. I don't know what you're planning, but I understand that Panatani and Google have said they won't have nuclear on that site. Sure, that doesn't mean they won't have it at a best site or somewhere else. Google has promised 1.7 gigawatts of extra power. We don't know where it's going. Watch out, folks. It could be in a neighborhood of yours. You keep threatening trucking, so people will oh my gosh, trucking. Honestly, bring that on. You just mentioned it would give people 1,000 jobs. A lot of trucks, but 1,000 long-term jobs. That came out of your mouth. You said 1,000 and some.
Don't want it.
Well, you don't, but you are voted by people to speak for the will of the people. You are not here to speak for yourself. That is not how this works.
The population has told me clearly they do not want more trucks on our 2-lane roads.
Choice. You have the opportunity. And I want it clear, you do have the right to say no to this tax reduction. You are choosing to do it. You are choosing to do it.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So with all of that said, put your money where your mouth is. I'm willing to bet down. Come on, let's go toe to toe. I got 4 seconds. I can stare at you. Come on. And by the way, Google attorney was sleeping. I asked him if he was having a medical event because I watched him for 3 solid minutes with his nose running. So nobody has their nose running in a public forum unless they were sleeping.
We're set. Thank you
Yeah,
very much.
and I'm sorry for that
Appreciate it.
comment, but honestly, I was
Thank you.
concerned for his health. I would have probably
you.
done CPR if he needed it.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Good to see everybody. My name is CJ Marshall, and I had to come here this evening because Channel 12 doesn't sound good in my home across the street here. So I dragged my sorry butt over here. I don't have Google. I'm a 43-year retiree of AT&T. I was a lineman for AT&T for 43 years, so I use Yahoo service. So I'm not a fan of Google, but I know that if we all didn't use the cloud, which is not a cloud, it's actually a data center, we probably, if we emptied our cloud, we probably wouldn't need data centers like we're getting. However, it's a thing of the future. But I've always been opposed to the tax abatements, and we got burned out. We almost cost our citizens a great deal of money with the Vestion Village venture and the bond, defunct bonds. We escaped that one, and I don't want to see this happen. But you said that if they exceed the noise level, they'll lose their tax abatement. Well, I was understanding that if they exceed the decibels that are set, that they should be shut down. But I don't understand why they would just lose a tax abatement. I don't understand that. I thought they were going to be held to a standard. And the other thing I'd like to say is, you're talking about trucking. Well, our roads are in terrible shape around here. And right now, I think Google would probably buy everybody a lifetime membership to Frosty Boy in this township, because they would do most anything to get into this data center like everybody else that wants to open a data center. And we need money for our roads. Our roads are crumbling again. Talking about Haggerty subdivision, I lived there for 38 years. Those roads in there, you told me it would be $300 per person per family at one time to restore those roads to Wayne County standards. Wayne County hasn't spent a nickel on Haggerty Road since I lived there. And it's a shame because those roads are in terrible shape. We got Tyler Road out here. These trucks going over here to Salantas are going to tear that road up because every day there's truckload after truckload of tandem trailers running up and down our roads. Get some money from Google for our roads. Put it in a fund. They would give you anything, just about. And if they don't, then don't give them a tax abatement. Let them go to Lansing. But I think you could do better. I really do. And I know all you folks up here. You know, I've known you for years, and I think you're decent people. But I just don't like this arrangement we've got. I think it's like closing the door after the horses are out. You know, I don't hold it against you, but I sure like to see something better from Google that can well afford what our community really needs. And take it from there, but fix the sound so I don't have to come to these meetings. I can sit across the street in my living room and listen to these meetings. Thank you.
At home is actually that the Comcast line that they run public through is like horrible. So they have to fix their problem. We get it to them, but they can't get it out. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Michael Lefferts. I actually live in Canton Township. I live straight up Haggerty, 5 miles from where we're standing, basically. I grew up in the Belleville, Ypsilanti area. I've lived in Belleville. I've lived in Ypsi Township. I lived in Ypsilanti. But there's one thing that concerns me that people have talked about. This is my third or fourth meeting, or third meeting I've been to, fourth that I've watched, is what happens if there's a fire? And that is something you really have to think about. Because they say, oh, they put all these safety protocols into it, but if you drop a pin at this point and go 15 miles out, there's how many dumps? How many toxic areas have been ruined by industrialization of the area? You'd be better off for the community putting a neighborhood in there, a community park, and taxing the people with a new neighborhood with affordable housing. And I'm not talking 2,800 square feet homes. I'm talking 1,200, 900 square foot homes like they did after World War II. They built all these houses. That's what GM did. They left. They ruined Ypsilanti when they left. Hydromatic, they ruined Ypsilanti. Think about that. Today, I was out in Howell for work, and I drove home to Canton. But instead of taking the freeway, the busy way, I drove through Salem Township, Northfield Township, Canton Township, all Heartland, Highland, all those areas out there. You know what they won't have? Is probably a data center. So you guys really need to think about your decision impacts the future 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now. I'm 57. I may not be here in 25 years. That's going to suck. But you know what? I have a grandson that lives by the wind blows 8 miles away from that data center. And guess what? If it catches fire, that entire area, plus the city of Detroit, Romulus, everything is going to be toxic. If all of you were wiping your windows this spring when we had fog in the area and you noticed that it was kind of white, yep, those are microparticles from all the firestorms or fires that we've had in the woods and everything. Last year, I remember sitting in my pool. It's an above-ground pool, soft-sided, cost me $400. But in there, and there was ash coming from Canada. I was up in Elk Rapids last summer. There, you could barely breathe up there the last summer because of that. What's going to happen if this catches fire? What's going to happen? Nobody has an answer. You guys have the ability to end this today. Stop it. Also, it takes 38 minutes for Google to make $10 million in profit. You said that you're going to get a $10 million kickback from them? 38 minutes. They've done that twice since this meeting started.
My issue here is just transparency from you all and from Google. We, as other people have said tonight, you know, we have never had a conversation with Google, yet you're talking about this program that they have. It's their philanthropy arm that does the home weatherization. And I really don't think that it's a community protection or a community benefit to weather strip someone's home or give them $1,000 for a tune-up on their furnace. And that is exactly what they're doing in Atlanta right now. That's their weatherization program. That's not a community benefit. That's not a community protection. There should be people from this community having conversation with Google. They should be in the building speaking with the community. It should be a forum just like this where we get to ask them questions and they respond. That has not happened. Panettone is not who I want to talk to. I want to talk to Google. Are you in the building? Is Google in the building? Thank you. So all I'm saying is that the community needs to hear from Google in a forum where we can have back and forth dialogue, not where they're talking at us, where we get to ask questions and they answer. So for me, you need to have pause on this, and there needs to be more investigation, more community involvement, and you need to vote no on the resolution tonight.
Thank you.
My name is Dennis Villegas. I have been here a resident of Van Buren, Ypsilanti, Belleville, and Wayne my entire life. And it is quite frankly appalling that you would even consider giving Google a tax exemption on any respect. We shouldn't be giving even $100 million companies a tax exemption, let alone Google, that is a $4.7 trillion company. And to even consider this is both gross and appalling. And to do so, to consider it, makes you all clowns and turns this place into a circus.
Supervisor of the board, I apologize for going over during the first session. Just in summary, Chris with Aerotropolis. It's 5-6 years in the making, looking for a first best-in-class developer, a best-in-class end user on an industrial zone property where a data center could be operational by right. It's a once-in-a-decade opportunity to identify a user who can help stabilize the tax base here in Van Buren Township, where, as was stated before, the road infrastructure, the water infrastructure, the sanitary infrastructure, and public infrastructure needs to be upgraded. And by finding an end user that can take that tax burden off of the residents and put it on an industrial user was the goal 5 years ago. And I think we found one that's just best in class. And so I encourage you to look at this project in strong support of it. And again, I apologize for going over, and I got 2 minutes left. So thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Megan Daniels from the Haggerty Sub. It's just very difficult for us to trust the board given half-truths. I mean, you were just up here a second ago saying that it's all M1. It was all M1. It was not all M1. Some of that was commercial. Some of that was residential. It was multi-parcels. So that's why I go back towards the spot
The data
zoning.
center's only on the M1.
Okay, yeah, so loopholes, but I mean, just going on, again, saying that it sounded like you were saying the whole area is just M1. It's M1, it's what it is, but in reality, it really was not all M1.
There's commercial there, but they didn't build it.
Commercial and residential as well.
But I don't think I'd have to look, but was there residential in that area? No, there's not. Hi.
My name's Debbie. I didn't get to finish last time. Thank you.
Okay.
What I wanted to discuss was the Belleville Area Independent. And July 11th of 24, several of the candidates had their profile, and they talked about the future of the city. Improving the lives of our residents, promoting our township's direction of fostering trust and collaboration, ensuring that our residents feel heard and valued, community connections. Be part of decision makers to keep Van Buren Township a great place to live. Want to make sure that Van Buren Township is where folks want to come, live, work, and raise families. So this is what you said back in 24, and now we're here talking about a data center that this community hugely opposes. So you either forgot what you said or you knew what you said and you're just lying. So my question is, are you aware of what you said? Did you forget it, or were you lying then?
I haven't changed one bit.
You haven't changed? You're still lying?
Thank you. Go ahead.
I also have a question. We're talking about full transparency. I don't trust any of you. I don't trust any of you. I read that you signed an NDA on June 5th, 2025.
I sign a lot of them, but yes.
No. So you're supposed to sign an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, on behalf of what's going on in this room. We're not supposed to know anything about it, and we're supposed to trust you?
Oh, the NDA ended a long time ago.
So if it ended, then what was it about? Are you able to discuss it?
It was about a data center wanting to come to Van Buren Township.
Was it related to that Anchor Design LLC?
I don't recall.
You should recall because you signed it. It's an NDA. You don't recall and you signed
I
it.
get a lot of NDAs. Yeah. They all come from the state of Michigan.
It's very scary that you get that many NDAs that you can't remember one related to this data center.
I would be very happy if you told the state of Michigan to quit sending them.
I would be very happy if you were recalled or somebody else ran and got elected ahead of you. But from what I understand, this is your last term. Am I correct on that? Can I ask you that question? From what I understand, this is your last term. So what it looks like to me is you grifted into the city. You ran for 3 terms to guarantee your tenure so you can get a pension from this city. Is that correct?
No.
No,
There's no pensions here.
There's no pensions for you?
No.
There's no pensions for you.
No.
What'd you get from doing this then? That would be my question. What do you get from this?
I'm building a community. I'm building the wealth of the residents.
You're building a community. The egotistical manner of you, you're building a community? You're building a community. I moved here 5 years ago to get out of politics, and now I stand before you, and I'm sick. If I would have known any of this was going to happen, me and my family never would have came here. My
Your
time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Back again. Linda Stakely. I live over in Sheldon Road, and I noticed a lot of the people that came up never mentioned where they lived. One of the things that nobody has mentioned is the medical conditions that are caused by data centers. They don't really cause the medical conditions. The primary trigger is by air pollution, noise, light pollution associated with their operation, and the heavy energy demands. A lot of pollutants are nitrogen dioxide, fine particle matters, and diesel exhaust come out of those data centers. It causes worsening of asthma, chronic respiratory diseases, cardiovascular conditions, increased risk of heart attacks and strokes, and cancer risk. Hundreds of thousands of cases have been happening through the data centers that they are tracking. Noise and infrasound pollution, large-scale server cooling fans and backup generators produce constant low-frequency hum. If you're sensitive to any kind of hum or anything, that's bad for you. You don't sleep. I can't even stand a fan over me because of the humming sound. Also, they have an infrasound effects when a noise is below the threshold of human hearing. It causes it physically to be felt even though you don't know it's there, and it causes vertigo, persistent headaches, dizziness, anxiety, and severe sleep disruption. And another thing that no one ever mentions is how many lights is this data center going to have? Because they have to maintain a lot of security, and that requires very, very bright, all-night exterior lighting. Well, constant bright lights can disrupt the natural circadian rhythms of your body and suppress melatonin production, which regulates healthy sleep and wake cycles. How close? 1,500 feet? 1,000 feet? Those houses are really close, and if that data center is putting out all of these lights, there's going to be a lot of problems, and people need to find out about it. Also,
We have a light pollution ordinance, and they must comply.
okay, but does that light pollution they might reach it, but still be too bright for the community over those houses.
It's in the engineering, and it has been discussed, and if it is affecting those houses and it's above the candle lit or whatever it's considered, they have to lower it, and they've agreed to pull them back. They've got wildlife corridors, so they're pulling back their fences, and I think they're pulling back their lights too.
Okay.
Is that
And
right?
what about chemical exposures? They rely on cooling systems and fire suppression technologies that use synthetic chemicals. They were talking about a closed water thing where it just turns, and those have to have chemicals put in them, and then when they're released, it goes into the ground. And my time is up.
And, yeah. And they did ask, that was asked during earlier, but when they come up, I'll ask them to answer that again, since you're the second or third person that's brought it up. Thank you. Go ahead.
Hello again to the board. My name is Caleb. I'll be quick with this with 2 points. One, to address, or what hasn't been addressed in the FAQ or comments here tonight by the board, that half of these cooling towers will be open loop. To paint a picture, imagine a guy in your neighborhood spraying a hose up in the air, and you're downwind from that. Some of it might hit your house, some of it might land on your lawn. A similar thing is happening with these cooling systems, but they have chemicals in them to preserve the system, the corrosion inhibitors, fungicides. I don't think anybody on this board would want somebody in your neighborhood doing that. That has to be addressed. And then the second point is that this payment schedule for the $15 million is 15 years, as I understand it. It just seems like a bad deal when you factor in inflation. You're losing almost half of the value. You mentioned earlier, I know I'm not supposed to address, someone on the board mentioned earlier that the payment was coming from Google up front, but that's not the case at all. You're getting diminished value over the course of 15 years. This is just, every way you look at it, it's a raw deal. It's a raw deal here. And you're losing your leverage with this memorandum of understanding tonight when construction can officially begin. It's like, come on, do some bargaining here. Get rid of the open loop systems. Get better protections. Do something for the neighborhood right next to it. What about a property tax waiver if you're so confident that their home values will be stable? Is there any sort of guarantee that you can offer this neighborhood? Because if I'm searching for a house and it's between two houses and I find out, and I like them both, and I find out during my house hunt, hey, this Beta Center is going up next to one of them. It's an easy choice which one I'm going to choose. That is value destruction. And it's happening to the Haggerty sub, and it might happen to people beyond the borders of the Haggerty sub who might not expect it. So those are two important issues I think should be addressed, and I would encourage the board to consider, do not give your leverage away tonight. Make a better deal. Demand more. Do something more for your community. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Marla, and I live on Bemis Road. I've got a question for you. You're allowing the open loop system on the data center, is that correct?
Both, yeah.
How is it that you're allowing that, but you allow no open fires, and we get fined if we have an open pit fire? None of their citizens are allowed open pit fires. We
It's
get
nothing
fined.
like that.
So how is it that you're allowing all these chemicals to go in, but you can't allow us to have bonfires?
The loops are closed, an open loop.
So you're promising
Yeah.
that we will not have all those chemicals in the air, because I'm not
They're
allowed
going to
an open
answer
pit.
that because you're the fifth person that's asked about that, so they're going to have to answer that when they come up today.
Well, I want it not just answered there, I want it in writing, because we get fined if we have a fire.
Okay.
And they put out a whole lot less than, what you guys are going to put out in chemicals for us to
Okay.
breathe.
Thank you. Go ahead,
My name's
thanks.
Judy. And first, I'd like to say I saw your mother passed.
Oh.
And my condolences to you. I lost my mother last year. So I know how hard that is.
you.
Secondly, I have right here, you do get a retirement that the township, that we as citizens put into your 401ks
True.
to match your thing. So that is a retirement. Call it what you like, but it's a retirement that we pay for.
I do have 401K.
So I don't have a lot to say, but I would like to say that this is a done deal. I mean, I really think it is. It's sad. I think it's a done deal. It's been a done deal for a long time. We got Whitmer behind it. We got our Secretary of State, Jocelyn Benson, who is running for governor, and if you vote for her, you're nuts. Her husband, Ryan Friedrich, he was in head of trying to negotiate all these data centers in Michigan. He just stepped down from that position because she's running for governor, and he said, well, you know, it's going to interfere with her likelihood of being elected if I'm the one back here, you know, pushing all these data centers. Just in Saline, getting the Saline one, his commission was $70 million for one data center that Benson's husband did. So, secondly, I just saw that in Saline today that the secretary on the board resigned. She was getting death threats from, which is very sad, from the data center. But also because the threats came because they were misinformed. They were told their data center would take about 1,400 megawatts for a day for their data center to run in electricity. It actually took 1.4 gigawatts. So a gigawatt is a billion watts compared to a megawatt, which is 1,000,000 watts. So they didn't inform their residents at all correctly. And I have a question about, you said that in this agreement, they're going to put up berms, they're going to put up to block noise, trees, whatever. But yet, then on the flip side, they're willing to buy new windows. They're willing to air-condition homes. So why would they be willing to do this to change the noise factor if they're going to do all this and keep the noise factor down?
You'd have to ask them. They're doing it with the Public Service Commission, which is the Energy Commission at the state of Michigan. That's where it's going to be.
I mean, I remember my dad owned a lot of rental houses over by the airport when they did the expansion. They put
yeah, I remember
windows,
that.
air conditioning. He had 11
Weatherization
homes
programs,
over
yeah.
there he rented.
Mhm.
So, and they did all that. But then who's going to monitor them to make sure that they agree and withhold, you know, hold up to all their agreements in your what, you know, what?
The agreement spells out
And-
how they're monitored and what the penalties are and the civil infractions. It's all in there.
There's them.
We would, the state of Michigan does, Public Service Commission does, Great Lakes Water does. I'm sure the sanitary sewer departments do.
A monthly monitoring system?
Some
or
of
is
them
it
are monthly,
annual?
some of them are quarterly.
And so they would be held accountable.
In theory, yes. Hopefully they will, yes. I think that they're going to do a good job.
I just don't understand why in America, why we're getting all these data centers, these huge hyperscale, because we have data centers. We have 75 in Michigan right now.
Have
But
any hyper.
not hypers. So this hyperscale data center, I mean, nowhere ever in the history of this country has anything happened this fast without any public approval whatsoever.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to be moving on to the next item, which is going to be, I did. Come on up.
All right.
So I know we have an equity issue in the community about access, right? Like that's been a continuous thing since you all discontinued Zoom. So I have a lot of public comments that are asking, hey, can you make sure that if there is any messages, emails to you all about a public comment, to please read them out loud if they have tried to contact you because they could not be here tonight. I'm not sure. I'm telling you what I'm told. And then the other thing is there's continuous YouTube comments and questions that occur throughout all of this, not even just this meeting, but people can't be here. I just had to bring my child who doesn't feel good. I have my other kid here. We have to start. If you're going to mention community, y'all got to bring it to community because only one of these board members, one of y'all, have ever talked to me about anything. And I think that is a continuous problem, is there is no respect to listen to us. Ever. The last time y'all walked off on us, and it is just infuriating and heartbreaking for us as my family, for us to save up so much money to move into the Haggerty sub and then get slapped in the face like this. There is never community engagement. And if y'all would just humble yourself, like just humble yourself, Kevin, and be like, I screwed up or whatever it is. Any of you, no, don't, because I'm done. None of you have ever just talked to us. We wouldn't be this pissed off if people just sat with us and listened. We voted for you. I voted for all of y'all. I had your back. And this is what happens. Please humble yourself and just talk to us.
Is there anybody else that has? Oh, okay. So we're moving on to new business. First item is a discussion on to consider approval of a second reading of an ordinance to update the Yucca sanitary sewer rules per the requirements of our agreement.
You didn't ask for any board comment.
Okay. Is there anybody from the board that wishes to make comment? Because it's not usually on that.
The winner? Yes, we are.
We're up here.
Public comment.
Did you want to make a comment at this time?
Go ahead, move. I'll make it later.
Okay. New business. Can I get a motion? Can I get a motion and can I have the new business tonight, line item number 1, read?
Through the chair.
Thank you.
I make a motion to consider approval of the second reading of ordinance 0505-26, parenthesis 1, which is an ordinance to update our Yucca sanitary sewer rules per the requirements of our agreement with Yucca.
Support.
Got a motion support. Director Akers?
So as a part of our agreement with YCUA, we are required to enact sewer ordinance revisions within 90 days of receiving notification that its member communities, Ypsilanti Township and the city of Ypsilanti, have revised their ordinances. So per their notice, the proposed revisions are proposed. They've been necessitated by a few substantial modifications to certain compatible pollutants, NPDES permit requirements to control emerging contaminants concern, and certain reevaluated toxic pollutant parameters. These parameters have been reviewed and approved by Eagle. Currently, we don't have any industrial properties in the township that discharge the YCUA wastewater treatment plant, so due to this, it is unlikely that any properties in the township are going to be affected. But this is pretty much all related to their industrial pollutants prevention program.
We basically have to do this as part of the sewer rules for that group. That's it. So I've got a motion by Trustee Martin, supported by Clerk Wright. Hearing no further discussion, requires a roll call vote.
Yeah.
Clerk Wright?
Trustee Kelly? Yes. Trustee Boyden? Where did he go? Trustee Martin?
Yes.
Trustee Frazier? Yes. Treasurer Bud? Yes. Yes for me. Supervisor?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Discussion. The next item is a discussion on consider approval of second reading of an ordinance to amend the township zoning ordinance regarding temporary land use approvals for fireworks tents. Can I get a motion? Trustee Kelly?
I move to consider approval of the first reading of ordinance 0505-262, which is an amendment to the Van Buren Township zoning ordinance regarding temporary land use approvals for firework tents.
Support.
Treasurer Bud?
Second reading, not first reading.
apologize. Amended to second.
All right. Director Akers, the second time we've done this, so go ahead.
Yes, so this is essentially a zoning ordinance amendment to allow staff to administratively review temporary fireworks stands that have previously received approval in prior years, where they're not proposing any major site amendments. This is a second reading. If there's any additional questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Second reading, any questions? Hearing none, I've got a motion by trustee Kelly, supported by treasurer Bud. All in favor, oh wait, roll call vote, please. Again, Clerk Wright.
Trustee Frazier? Trustee Martin?
Yes.
Trustee Boyden?
Yes.
Trustee Kelly?
Yes.
Yes for me. Treasurer Bud?
Yes.
Supervisor?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Next item is discussion on and consider approval of resolution to establish an industrial, wait, I'd like to take wait, don't we have another one?
Another one.
We moved, the personal property moved to consent agenda, never mind. I would like to take line items number 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 together, and we will vote separately on them, but we would like the presentation to be done one after the other and come forward, so we have no pause. But go ahead, start off, Director Akers, on your announcements.
Seeing that, we have representatives from Panattoni Development and Google who are going to come forward and give a presentation on their project.
Thank you.
Supervisor, trustees.
And you heard what the additional information I wanted. Okay, thank you. I know you know what I meant. Okay.
Yes, sir. Supervisor, trustees, thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. I'm Adam Kramer, partner and head of data centers for Panattoni Development. Tonight, we're going to cover 3 key items, as well as making sure to address the issue.
There was a few questions, you're right.
Yes. Okay. We want to make sure to cover 3 key things. One is to provide an overview of Project Cannoli. Second is a discussion of PA 198 application, for which colleague Ford Graham, representing Google, will do. And finally, a presentation from Molly Coker-Boyle, who will talk as a representative of Google tonight and answer questions as well. So I think just to start with the framing, because we want to make sure that we're starting on the same page here. Project Cannoli has received preliminary site plan approval for a 1 gigawatt data center campus and all the corresponding utility infrastructure. The project and all of the infrastructure fall under the current zoning ordinance, and no zoning variances were required for this. This is an overview of the site. Again, this site is consistent with the existing zoning and land use definitions, and it is being developed for Google. And I think an important thing is people have talked about the Saline Township project, which is being built by a developer and leased to somebody. This is being built and owned by Google, which means this is a long-term investment and commitment by that company into Van Buren Township here. It is a big difference, and it means a meaningful long-term investment into the community. And then we'll talk about site access and a number of the concerns as we've worked through this process through many public meetings, and including bringing in the preliminary site access to come off of Interstate 94 Service Drive. But first is, why do we need data centers? What are we doing? Well, first off, every single thing that we do on the internet goes through a data center, whether it's sending an email, checking your health records, or helping your kid with their school homework. All of that is going through the internet and through a data center. 10 years ago, the average American was using about 1 to 3 gigs of data a day. This would have been pre-COVID, if we think that far back, right? This was traditional social media scrolling, online gaming. We weren't doing very many video calls, but we were streaming videos using YouTube in those early days, and getting there. Jump to today, and the average American is using about 10 to 20 gigs of data a day. And this is everything that we access from the cloud: our phones, our images, our PDFs, our medical records, our MRIs, our CAT scans, our integrated web browsing and gaming now with our gaming with high definition gaming that we're doing and streaming all of the time. All of the video games and webcasts, including this tonight. And then where do we think the future is going in the next 10 years? Is that usage is going to continue on that trend, and that we're going to have more and more integration of data in our day-to-day lives. This includes supporting Southeast Michigan's big industry, the automotive industry, which is continuing to advance towards autonomy and utilizing the latest technology, the latest chips, and the latest integration with the internet to be able to do this. We're seeing things like AR, which is augmented reality glasses, so just like wearing a traditional glasses, but you're seeing things pop up here. And people think that, hey, that's a lot of fun and games, but we also are seeing that into the manufacturing environment, and manufacturing another key industry here, and it's helping to ensure more precision engineering. It's also helping to ensure safety and making sure that people are doing things the right way. But that also takes a lot of data, and it's continuing to stream. And then we're seeing a further connectivity of our homes, of our lives. We have cameras on our cars that are helping us to be able to navigate and make sure we don't sideswipe, and that is generating a lot of data. And we're seeing that demand for data centers continue to grow. And so the data centers are really, simply stated,
I don't know who that is, but thanks.
so what is a data center? I think that's a really important piece here. A data center is a building like any other in that it has four walls and a roof, but what's happening inside of that data center is that the internet is running, and has servers, and it does have people, quite a few people, as the operators who are in this room will attest to, that are working in here and supporting the digital infrastructure that's driving our economy. It's using a lot of air conditioning to be able to cool these servers and power to be able to run it, but it's being done so very sustainably, as we'll talk about later with Google's commitment to using carbon-free energy to continue to support this project. A little bit about Panattoni. Panattoni is the developer. We will be overseeing the building of this project and making sure that you as trustees understand who Panattoni is and get to know a little bit more about us. Panattoni is a family-owned business, and we have been for 40 years. Our data center team has more than 100 years of combined experience building data centers, including delivering 10.2 gigawatts of data centers for all of the major hyperscalers. And we are honored to be representing and working with Google on this project. This project is expected to generate approximately 1,500 construction jobs during construction, and our general contractor for the project is none other than Southeast Michigan's Walbridge. Walbridge, in addition to being a 100-plus-year-old company headquartered here in Southeast Michigan, has nearly 30 employees who live in Van Buren Township and work for this company, and Walbridge will be the general contractor on this. The construction activity will continue to support local and regional contractors, trades, and suppliers, again demonstrated by the people in this room who are real people, who have real jobs, pay real taxes, and are excited to be able to work on cutting-edge jobs and have these opportunities here in Van Buren Township. We will be doing a local job fair. We'll actually be doing two local job fairs. We'll be doing a first local job fair. There'll be a job fair and a contractor fair, and we have been working and reaching out to local contractors here in Van Buren Township. But we'll also be doing a local hiring fair to help hire for those contractors that will be working on this project. As the project gets ready for completion, Google will hold the job fair to be able to hire permanent jobs for this project. And that will be held in Van Buren Township with a priority on trying to hire Van Buren residents for this. And what you'll see as Google talks about their commitment to education investment is that this isn't just hoping that those people are here, it's building the pipeline for those people to be here for these jobs as they continue to invest. The tax revenue generated from this project is going to continue to support local public services, and not the least of which are fire, police, and life safety as we continue to invest into this community. And this data center represents a long-term sustainable investment. I can't emphasize enough how important it is that it is Google who will be owning and operating this data center, and what that means with that level of investment. So now just to provide a little bit of the site overview, and before I do, I want to talk about changes. We've done a lot of changing based on community feedback, working with the Planning and Zoning Commission, working with staff, having multiple open houses to have this level of engagement with the community. We did a noise study that ensures and was performed by licensed engineers who meet all of the requirements. That a noise study was completed that this project meets or exceeds all of the township's noise standards. The site layout, buffering, and infrastructure were all put into place to reduce any visual impact, and as we will show you, I think, in a moment, to provide enhanced visual benefit for the area. Additional mature trees are being incorporated and tied into large berms. that will be providing between 25 and 30-foot cover for the project, and we will have street views that we'll show you in just a moment from different areas all around the property as we continue to go forward. The site access. First thing we were told, there will be no site access off Haggerty Road. You will not interfere with our traffic. So site access will be off of Service Drive, and we will be very focused on making sure that that's how it's directed. And large portions of the site are going to remain undeveloped open space. Nearly 50% of the project is undeveloped, and we will show you in a minute how we brought in the fence lines based off of feedback to be able to create migration corridors for animals and wildlife to continue to be in the area. And we have continued to coordinate with local stakeholders to make sure that we can be the best community member possible. This is a site plan that will give you an overview. There are 3 data centers represented here, buildings 1, 2, and 3, and 5 buildings overall, which will include, in addition, a hub, which is an office, and then a network building. We have to connect the internet to the campus and then back out to the internet, and that's what that network building will be supporting. The equipment selection and design were specifically changed based off of feedback. In fact, our initial preliminary site plan approval, one of the requirements was to be able to put ultra-quiet noise fans onto the building. And so we have that. In fact, that is part of our agreement here as well, that those will be on this equipment. Those will help to reduce sound even further in this project. As I mentioned, we have 127 acres of preservation on this project and 8,117 trees that will be preserved and another 2,100 that will be planted. And I think an important point that's also come up throughout the preliminary site plan is, well, what if one of the trees dies or something happens? We are obligated to replace those. That is part of the requirement. This isn't just plant it and forget it. And these aren't Charlie Brown trees like you might see when you're driving down Haggerty Road and see some other developments outside of here, right? These are mature trees that we are putting on this project. They're 8 to 14-foot trees, and we've been working with a landscape architect, and I'll show you those photos in a minute. This is what I talked about just a moment ago. This is the fence line. So the fence line is represented by that tight red corridor around each of the buildings. So traditionally, what we would have done is fenced off the entire property, all 282 acres, and shut that down. But what we've done instead is we've limited it to just being around where the buildings and the roads are for security. And those fences are behind the berm. Those security fences are behind the berm. So these are for security and security only, but they will also not be seen either. This is what an aerial view of the data center will look like at completion. This is give you an idea of the campus, and you can see a lot of the green space that has been preserved for this campus as we've continued to focus on meeting the needs and demands here. One of the important things to point out is the preservation of the existing trees as well. So you'll notice here on the south side and then also on the east side here that we've maintained that heavy tree, those very mature 40, 50-foot trees will be kept in place there. They already provide incredible natural buffering. We are going to keep those and continue to focus on that. Water, sound, and the environment. The water will be tap water, unequivocally. We are using water from Gliwa for our water. That water that is used and discharged will be discharged to Shuva's system, and that is the only discharge that will happen. There will be no wells on the site. We will not be pulling well water for this project.
What about additives? And that's what they were asking about.
The additives in this water are the same as you have in any traditional system. There's no PFAS or forever chemicals in these systems or any of the things that have been described today. We've actually provided the information of that in the FAQs specifically about what's going to be in that system. And it are things like descaler or other things because you don't want lime buildup inside of your pipes. And everything must meet Shuva's requirements as well for the discharge into the system. We have strict adherence that we must follow through requirements with Shuva for the discharge in the system.
And none of that water will ever be laid out on the ground.
Correct. None of that water will be laid out on the ground. That water will be discharged into the sewer system. That is in our agreement. We have worked very closely with the township and through the township with Shuva to ensure that that happens. Thank you. The backup generators for the site, we are...
One second, Trustee Martin would like a question.
So we're Talking about the cooling towers and the water is going to be in a closed loop system. My concern is with the cooling towers themselves, are you going to have some type of cellular eliminators to tap down that mist so that the particulates stay inside the tower?
Yes, sir. We have drift eliminators that eliminate 99.999% of any particulate that would evaporate in here, which, just for context, drive through on a winter day, pretty much every air conditioning system you see up and down Haggerty Road is using air-cooled towers. I don't know if they're using this quality of drift system. This is removing those particulates exactly as prescribed with that elimination.
It doesn't actually remove them, it just collects them in the top. And it goes
Correct,
back
but it
down
removes
into
it from
the-
being discharged.
Right,
Yes,
so
sir.
it's not
That's a
discharged
much
into
more
the air.
accurate description. It is collecting it, it will go into the sewer, and will discharge that way. Yes.
Through the
Yes,
chair,
go ahead.
just to add to, I sit on the board for South Huron Valley, and they also monitor what comes into and what they treat. And if they ever notice anything, they would be make you aware, as they would make the township aware that something's not right. So not only are you watching it, South Huron Valley will also watch it.
That is correct. We have worked with Fishbeck Engineering, who's the township's engineers, and Shuva and had direct conversations with all of them to make sure not only we are compliant, but that we are far beyond any of the requirements that Shuva has in there. And we have disclosed everything to Shuva and worked directly with them on that. The generators for the site, I think 2 important points, and this is also based on community feedback. We went from 156 generators down to 24 generators, and these are not Tier 2 generators, these are Tier 4 compliant generators. So these not only are minimizing noise, which is an important piece, these are minimizing the particulates as well. And these generators are only set to run in an emergency situation on this site. These are not generators that are there to power the facility. In fact, the reason we eliminated down to 24 generators and not to 0 is we do need some for life safety. There are life safety requirements in which we need generators. And then we have some additional generators in case there's an outage in a winter months and it were to freeze. We want to make sure that the equipment doesn't freeze so we can keep them heated at that point. But that was the minimum that we were able to do, and we worked hard to make that reduction as well.
Thank you.
And
Chair.
Yes.
Through the chair.
Oh, yes, oh, sorry.
What is the testing schedule, if you will, for these generators?
1 hour a month.
Okay.
And then the project will administer recycling consistent waste in line with LEED. So this building will be built up to a LEED equivalency as well, which is one of the things also prescribed in the state of Michigan's sales and use tax abatements. Now I'd like to provide you a few views that are renderings that were done from the road level. This, just so you can orient as you're looking at this, and I apologize if this is a little hard here, but the red triangle will tell you where the person or where this picture is taken from and what we're looking at. And these are based off of, these were produced by Kimley Horn, our civil engineer for the project, Kimley Horn of Michigan, who is a nationally recognized leader in civil engineering. So just for the credentialing purposes, this is what you will see from Haggerty Road. Looking at, to the right would be one of the substations, and to the left would be Data Center 1, Building 1. As you can see, the sidewalk is added there. And one other thing, by the way, I should mention on community feedback, that we are also going to be building a sidewalk on the west side of Haggerty Road, which is part of our development agreement as well. So you'll have a sidewalk on the east side and the west side
That's
of
a
Haggerty Road.
$500,000 sidewalk, yes.
Sidewalk. This is what you will see. This is manicured, or maintained, maybe is the better term. This is maintained area with the berm. You'll see the white fencing here along the road. That is the extent of the fencing you will see, and that is really an aesthetic choice, as well as it allows animals to continue to migrate that may be going through. But we do want to tell people you're not supposed to be climbing the berm and going over. And so this was something that we've done. And for those of you who've been down to New Albany, you've seen similar white white fencing like this around there. It is, I think, very attractive. This is the view from Haggerty Road looking at Building 1. So this gives you an idea of what you will see from building 1 here. Again, all of this is maintained and planned landscaping that we are working with landscape architects on. This is the view from Haggerty Road. This also represents another piece of feedback that we have gotten from the township. Originally, the direct entrance, this is the entrance on Haggerty Road for the switching station. So this would only be used in maintenance of the switching station by ITC and or DTE, which hopefully they're not out there very often maintaining it. But this would be the entrance. Instead of having a direct entrance to the site, this road now meanders behind a berm and provides additional pushback and coverage to prevent any line of sight to the base of that switching station, so the base of it. You do still see the towers up there. They are 80-foot towers, but the rest of that is covered up through the berms. This is the view of the main entrance here off of North Interstate Drive. This is what someone will see as they're coming into the property. And this is the view from Hannon Road, looking at Building 3. This is actually the existing shrubbery there, which we will maintain for that area. But that's what it will look like from Hannon Road. And then finally, Josh, if you don't mind, this is what the buildings will look like. We've also brought some building materials to share with you so you can get an idea of the look and feel of the buildings as we go around here. The building on your left, the brick appearing building, is the hub or office space. And then even though people will not be seeing this from the road, we worked with planning and zoning to ensure that this not only met or exceeded Van Buren Township standards on the aesthetics and the aesthetic requirements you have for all buildings in the community. And then on the right is what the data center exterior will look like. So what is in front of Treasurer Bud right now is a feel of what the brick will be, that will be on the facade of the office. And then what Clerk Wright is looking at right now are samples of what the colors will be for the exterior of the data center here as well, to give you an idea visually to be able to see. With that, I am around for more questions, but I would start by passing this off to Ford Graham, who, with McGuire Wood, who is representing Google here. Ford?
Yes. If anybody has questions, go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Sorry. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. We worked through a tax analysis, and I'm going to go over a few slides. I have the driest portion of tonight's presentation, but feel free to jump in anytime and ask any questions. So again, recapping, 3 data center facilities being built within a 2-year period. I want you to see the underlying land value is about $14 million, and that's over 281 acres essentially. And once the 3 data center facilities are built, they represent about 1.45 million square feet of data center facility. And the estimated total cash value of those data center facilities, again, that's the real property, is about $105 per square foot, so roughly $152 million in real property. So buildings and land, so to speak. And then finally, the other portion that makes up the tax analysis, and of course the property taxes, is the computer equipment. And you saw photos earlier, and you'll see others. It's essentially a building, a box, and inside there are racks, servers, mainframes, cooling, network equipment, everything that makes up the data center storage facility, essentially. And so it's going to be roughly $2 billion worth of data center equipment. It's possible it'll be slightly more than that. And I'll talk a little bit about what we call refresh as well. But those are the 3 essential components that made up the analysis of the taxes. I know you can't see this from the back, and I apologize, but what I'm showing right now is a breakdown of the millage rates, not only for Wayne County, but also for Van Buren Township. And it includes things like Detroit Zoo, Township, Public Safety, Library Operations. So basically we use this as the base formula with which we calculated the other values that I just mentioned. So the other thing about our assumptions, again, as we'll get to it, there's a 3% annual escalator on real property that's been calculated into the analysis here. All equipment receives computer equipment depreciation, which I'll talk about in just a second, which means it's how it's devalued over time, because as we all know, computer equipment after a few years, it no longer works as well as the newest and greatest technology. And what I mentioned earlier about refresh is that roughly every 5 years, because of depreciation, because of the quality of the equipment is deteriorated and there are other equipment that's better out in the market, Google will refresh, basically remove the existing equipment and put in new equipment. And so that's also calculated into the tax analysis, and I'll touch on that as we get further in. Obviously, I'm going to show you the industrial facility tax and how the P198 treatment for the site impacts the property taxes. And then finally, as part of the PA 198, Van Buren Township gets a 1% administrative fee of total property tax obligation. So again, I know it's relatively small, and I apologize for that, but what I'm showing you here is year 1 through 13. I'm showing you on the very, very last column, that's the total millage rate that is paid, or the total tax burden that the company will pay to all of the taxing jurisdictions in Wayne County and Van Buren Township through that 12 to 13-year cycle. The next one is showing is the second column is showing that administrative fee on a yearly basis. And finally, we'll get to the light blue section, which shows what the company will be paying to Van Buren Township, again, after a PA 198 approval. It should get approved tonight, which is roughly $1.2 million in year 1, $2.1 million in year 2, 1.64 in year 3, 1.3, and so on and so forth. And so when you add that column to the administrative fee column, you see the final column of the light blue, which is the total VBT payment. And so the reason that it goes down over time is because, again, the equipment depreciates over time, and we're using the official tax depreciation schedule that's put out by the Michigan Department of Revenue, essentially the Treasury. And so that's what I've plugged in here. And you'll see when the numbers are going up, that's because there's a new investment of equipment into the existing facilities. So finally, the light column on the right side is showing you what the tax revenue would be to the Van Buren schools. And so the last thing I'll mention is line 13 is light pink. That's essentially when the real property is no longer able to receive the PA 198, so it rolls onto the tax rolls at full tax burden. So that's essentially why that line is like that. So again, over 13 years, the company will pay at least $23 million to Van Buren Township, and I can't read the number from back there, but roughly $37 million to the school district as well. And again, I say at least because it's possible that there'll be more equipment, or the equipment will be valued slightly higher as costs go up. And then finally, what I did was I took a snapshot, and again, it's very small, I apologize, but I took a snapshot of the township budget from last year. And what I wanted to, and on the right side is a cutout of what I just showed you in the previous slide, showing the year-by-year tax revenue that will come to Van Buren Township. And I just wanted to juxtapose that against the taxes, total taxes that came in 2023, which is roughly $8 million. In 2024, it was $8.6 million. So as you can see, this project will end up being a huge contributor in taxes to the community. And we did an analysis of the top 3 taxpayers in Van Buren Township, and this far exceeds those tax burdens that they're paying. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Does anybody here have any questions?
Well, then I'll pass it off to my colleague, Molly.
All right, deep breaths. Yes, Google is in the building. I am a representative of Google. My name is Molly Coker-Boyle. I am excited to be here, and I want to thank you for the time that you've given us to consider us being part of your community. So, good evening. It's been a long evening. Excited to be here to share a little bit more. Google is not new to Michigan. We have called Michigan home for more than 20 years, and with offices in Ann Arbor and in Detroit. And part of that investment in Michigan has been looking at opportunities to provide value to the nonprofits that call Michigan home, the businesses that call Michigan home, and the customers that use our services and applications. So our commitment runs deep. In 2025, Google helped generate $19.8 billion in economic activity across Michigan. And that is, again, small businesses. More than 565,000 small businesses use Google tools. And we, every day, at no cost to their customers, Google.org provided $12 million in ad grants to Michigan nonprofits last year. All of that economic activity, every Google Map route used by a delivery driver, every Gmail sent by a local charity looking to raise funds to support their mission, and every Google Doc that is used in a school is powered by the infrastructure that we are talking about here tonight. And that brings us to why we are here today. The internet warehouse. We hear a lot about what is a data center. As we've talked about tonight, data centers aren't new. The size of this data center may be the differentiator, but Google has been developing, owning, and operating data centers for more than 20 years, multiple decades. We've done this because we know that the infrastructure that we all rely on every day, whether it's 911 calls, whether it is electronic health records, whether it is financial information, requires this infrastructure in order to be safe and secure. So beyond the everyday search and email that we talked about, data centers power the technology that we rely on in our daily lives. And we are a world leader in space. We are not a new entrant to this market. As anyone who's used Gmail or Google Maps can attest, this has been serving our communities for many years. Now, crucially, I think it's important to point out, these data center locations, we do not take a cookie cutter approach to them. We do not use a one size fits all. We focus our approach on working closely with local communities, as you heard from Panatoni, to make sure that we can make modifications, customizations, the things that will make this make sense for your community and respect the local ordinances, the state laws that require and oversee these operations. And we are proud to have been part of this conversation to make those changes that Adam just shared. Now, I want to talk about why Van Buren and why Michigan. You know, people may ask, why here? Why does it have to be here? What is it about this? As Supervisor, you shared, this was part of the master plan for this community for many, many years. We were very intentional about making sure that where we looked at as a partner and as a site to locate was somewhere where this was already zoned. So it was part of a community plan. It was not something that we were asking for rezoning to happen. And the simple answer is Van Buren Township is offering a forward-thinking approach to this process, diversifying your tax base, making sure that the modifications make sense for the Van Buren community. This site also stands out because you were thoughtful about what needed to make sense for your community. Again, all the changes and modifications through the process that you requested were things that we were happy to make those changes to because we realized that this is a two-way relationship. We are in it to be good neighbors. We are in it for the long term. And so we want to make sure that as we're coming to this community, we're making those changes to make sense for this site and for the community that we're locating in. Furthermore, I want to share about the Michigan policy. Michigan was thoughtful in the way it decided to enact the sales and use tax exemption for these types of projects. It has the most progressive, strongest green strings language in the country. And I'm happy to elaborate on all of those. I think some of them have been touched on. LEED certification, renewable energy. All of these things are what Michigan decided needed to be part of the project if it was going to have data centers come to the state. Finally, we see this not just as a facility, but as a multi-decade partnership that will bring economic growth to the community. We believe that if we're going to be part of the community, we should be part of the solution. And we partner with communities to build data centers the right way. I want to talk a little bit about some of the energy and economic impact of these projects. So let's talk about what this project directly translates into for Van Buren Township. Google is proposing a multi-billion-dollar investment into this community. This project will be a massive engine for job growth, both construction and long-term operational jobs. I will say, I work in a data center campus. I am excited because I eat lunch with hundreds of colleagues every single day. I know that there's a lot of questions about what is the long-term opportunity for these jobs, and I can attest firsthand that it is not just 50 plus jobs. It is long-term jobs, and it's really exciting to be part of that community when you get to sit around with your colleagues and eat lunch and share in that story together. Because I know a lot of these folks say this is the first opportunity that they've had to stay in a community and have long-term opportunity. And these aren't jobs that require necessarily higher education opportunities. These are jobs that span a whole host of economic and educational pathways, and we're excited that this is something that we can offer to this community. Additionally, these are high-wage jobs. Part of that sales and use tax credit that the state offers requires to have competitive wages. Same thing for here. It requires a certain number of jobs. There are strings attached to this commitment, and we are proud to be adhering to those strings. Additionally, the economic impact doesn't stop at the property line. It doesn't stop within those confines that we shared. We have research that shows that for every Google data center job, an additional 9 jobs are created in the wider community. If you think about both from the construction and operational side of these projects, it is retail, it is hospitality, it is a whole host of service industries that are involved and pulled into this story and that growth that happens in a community once these projects come on board. Additionally, we're invested in making sure that there are careers and opportunities for residents and students right here in Van Buren Township. As Adam shared, we look to not only hire folks today, but to build the pipeline for the future. And if they come to work at our project, that's great. But our goal is just making sure that there's an investment in these people's futures so they have the opportunities as they look at, what's ahead for the future and what the economy will look like. Additionally, because these projects are highly capital-intensive projects, as Ford shared, we are typically one of the largest taxpayers in this jurisdiction. It provides a stable revenue stream for roads, schools, public safety, public parks. And I think that's really important to emphasize because, again, I think we're seeing costs of things are only going up, right? I know as a homeowner, as a resident, I see that every day. I know folks have talked about that here in this hearing. Having someone who can shoulder more of that burden by providing more funding to the tax base gives you more options. And I know you know that. And that's, as you've spoken, why you're looking at this project as an opportunity to expand and diversify that tax base. The other thing that we know that's really important is that, it's important that we pay our own way. Because of the rising costs of groceries, housing, and utilities, there are pressure on American households. We want to be completely transparent about our resource infrastructure. We will cover 100% of electricity costs and infrastructure needs, 100%, to support this project. If data centers are developed with this type of commitment, electric rates will actually be driven down as we bring this additional capacity onto the grid. And additionally, as I shared, there are very strong guidelines in Michigan policy that requires that if this type of project is to be eligible for incentives, it has to come and bring clean energy so it does not compromise Michigan's clean energy goals. We're not going to be pulling from the grid. We are going to actively be improving it. Google is adding 2.7 gigawatts of clean around-the-clock power directly to the energy grid to support this project. That supports grid reliability, and it establishes the state as an infrastructure leader on how to do this in a sustainable way. Additionally, as we shared on the Michigan Energy Impact Fund, again, this is something that we've modeled in other states and we're excited to bring to Michigan. It is not just part of our commitment to add clean capacity to the grid, but it is to look for other ways to be a positive neighbor and member of the community and figure out if there are resources and additional things that we can bring to address energy affordability and energy efficiency in the community. This has looked like weatherization projects. This has looked like supporting anchor institutions with upgrades to their facilities. It has been a variety of things, and what we, again, pride ourselves on is that is not a cookie cutter approach. We are looking forward to actively working with Van Buren Township and the surrounding communities to inform how this fund and the projects that it supports make sense for Michigan and make sense for this community right here.
Can you, just for the record, add that a board member from this board will be appointed?
I am excited to share that a member of this board's choosing will represent a community advisor, will be on the community advisory board, having the oversight to make the recommendations for how those projects should be supported. We don't want to pick what projects are funded. We want to facilitate the process, but we're really excited to have community representation to make sure that the projects that are funded are the ones that make sense for this community.
Thank you.
Again, what are the things that we pride ourselves on? It is that, as I shared, we grow the local economies, whether it's retailers, whether it is materials and construction labor, whether it's restaurants and hotels. We are a economic impact. We are proud to provide the economic impact to the communities we call home. Again, this is based on what we've seen in the other places that we've built these facilities. So I want to talk a little bit about the unique benefits of a data center and the resource aspect of this. We know that protecting local natural resources is top of mind for council and for the residents, for Michiganders. We take a deeply climate conscious approach to these projects, as well as a hyper-local approach to every site. So first of all, our commitment to climate consciousness and sustainability isn't just about minimizing use and about making sure that we do these thoughtfully. It's about giving back more than we use. So we globally, Google has pledged to replenish 120% of the water we use globally. Again, this is making sure that for the water that we use, whether it be for cooling, for facilities, that we give back more than we take. Now, how we do this matters, right? Again, we want to make sure that we are doing this in coordination and partnership. I live in the state and neighbor to your south, so I'll speak to some of those examples where we've already had some of these projects stood up. So for example, we've partnered with the local Soil and Water Conservation District, the Nature Conservancy, and other businesses to restore the Slim Creek flow-through wetland. This isn't about taking productive land out of use, it's about smart natural infrastructure. By restoring this specific wetland, it acts as a natural filter for runoff for over 700 acres of surrounding agricultural fields. So before that water ever hits the South Fork of the Licking River, that wetland acts as a natural filter. It's a practical, collaborative project that reduces nutrient pollution, prevents harmful algal blooms, and protects local water quality and outdoor recreation for everyone. Another project that I'd like to share about is in the Upper Scioto watershed. We are partnering with the West Branch Little Walnut Creek Stream and Wetland Complex. Over the year, heavy development and altered landscapes have put strain on local water supplies. Our solution is simple and natural. By reconnecting the stream to its original floodplain, we are naturally slowing the water down. By increasing the time that the water sits in the floodplain, we allow it to seep back into the ground, enhancing the recharge of the local aquifer. We aren't here to deplete local resources. We're here to invest in watershed and ensure a secure, reliable water supply for the next generation of Michigan families, businesses, farmers. Finally, I want to share a little bit about our investments in education. Beyond the environment, we invest heavily in local youth. We partner directly with host school districts and libraries to fund K-12 STEM education. This means expanding access to computer science curricula, providing hands-on learning through robotics kits, and offering professional development for local teachers so Van Buren's students are fully equipped for the careers of tomorrow. For example, driven by a shared commitment to equitable STEM education, Google partnered with Oklahoma nonprofit The Opportunity Project to breathe new energy into local after-school programs. This powerful collaboration allowed the Union Public Schools robotics pathway to thrive. This initiative now spans 23 active clubs across 6 campuses, welcoming 233 students from kindergarten through 7th grade into the exciting world of robotics, while equipping them with the technical fluency and confidence to lead tomorrow's workforce. I know this school district has a lot to be proud about with its robotics program. Again, we're very excited to continue those conversations with school district leaders and with the community to see what that STEM programming looks like in Van Buren Township and for Van Buren students.
And you've been in touch with the schools already?
We have been engaged with the schools.
They tell me they're pretty happy. Okay.
So, in summary, Project Cannoli represents a meaningful, multi-generational opportunity for Van Buren Township. It represents private investment with a deep commitment to environmental stewardship, clean energy development, local jobs, and school funding. We respect that a project of this scale requires careful thought. This project fits within your approved master plan, and we have been fully committed to moving through the public review process transparently with our partner Panattoni, keeping residents informed, engaged, and working closely to make sure that the modifications we made were a result of those community conversations. We are excited about the prospect of calling Van Buren Township home, and we look forward to building a strong collaborative future together. I want to thank you for your time. I'm here to offer additional information as needed.
Before you sit down, Fire Chief McAnally, could you step forward, because we have not heard about any, there was a couple issues regarding possible fire. Are we concerned? Yeah.
What was the question? I didn't hear what the question was earlier. I missed it.
Bud?
I guess the biggest concern is I know you and I and others have had discussion about fire and how the department could handle it. I want you to talk about what you explained to us, that you've had training and you are ready to meet the needs if and when it would ever be needed.
First off, the buildings are built with fire codes in mind, and the material are used have all gone through like codes and so forth that they have to have when they're built. We started last year. Battery technology is still developing and growing, and so with batteries, we started some battery training. As far as the buildings itself, they're pretty much they're built with the infrastructure and fire suppression systems that are designed to suppress fires until we can get there to be able to put the fires out on the inside should there be a fire. The material that's used has to be rated, the equipment that used in there is rated, and the training that the firefighters provided also goes to that method to be able to put that out. Now, we will have continuing training that we will do from the beginning of when this project starts all the way through once it's there, on an annual, regular basis, like we do with a lot of our other complexes that are in the township. They have different developments. This is not the first battery or data center within Van Buren Township that we've had to deal with over the years.
Thank you. I think that's what I wanted you to share with everyone here, because that was a concern of some of the residents that spoke earlier.
Yeah, we have mutual aid agreements with hazmat teams for air monitoring. We also have other departments around what's called the box card system that respond with us depending upon the size of the incident and how many people we need to be able to handle that particular incident. And that goes out well within the 5 box card to several communities. And then we're part of MABUS, which is a Michigan box card, so it gets even bigger depending upon what happens with the incident and how it's handled.
Thank you, Chief.
Yep.
Molly, could you come back? Does anybody have any questions for Molly and Google?
And I'm happy to just reiterate what Adam shared too, that I know there were a lot of questions around the evaporative cooling and what exactly moves into the air and what doesn't. And proud to say that all of those particulates stay in the cooling, that what is evaporated is water vapor, pure and simple. To use the scientific term, it is ultra pure water that goes into the air.
I personally am very thankful for the concessions that Google has made. When we walked the site, it was quiet in New Albany, and there was one cooling tower that was particularly quiet, the Marley Ultra Quiet, which I understand is a $12, $14 million upgrade to go to it. And we said, we want that one. And they said, okay. So that was nice. I like the wildlife corridors. I'm very happy that you did that. I particularly am just amazed at how well you built up the high berms, the trees, the shrubs in between, the grasses, the landscaping, the $30 million landscaping package that's going to hide this facility. That's a plus. The schools are excited about the collaboration that they can get with Google, and in the hope that you will help them also in other ways, which I'm told from Virginia and Ohio that you have helped their local school systems. I came into this looking for a way to get you out. I didn't, I not only did not find them, I found that you guys were more than willing to adjust your plans to fit our community, and for that, I'm very thankful. And I love that you have no trucking. I'm so sick of trucking. But thank you very much on my behalf. Does anybody else want to speak? No? Okay.
Oh, no.
Yes, Clerk Wright.
Well, I don't have any questions. I want to make a short comment to the residents of Hagerty Sub. So I live at 9961 Andover Drive, which is about a quarter mile adjacent to the largest data center in this area, which is Chase. And the impact, if there's any impact, it's going to have an impact on my family as well. I've been living in this community for 34 years. I moved in 1994. I raised two sons, now 32 and 28, in Van Buren Township. My oldest son now have a granddaughter, 18 months old. So I just want to let you know that we as a board, in order to run for these positions, we have to live in the township. We can't live outside the township. I live right behind you guys in Hagerty Sub. I grew up dirt poor. I don't look down on no one. I respect every individual that I talk to on a daily basis, and I talk to a lot of individuals of the township. This is my 18th year. It will be in November, my 18th year as clerk. And yeah, some of the years I ran unopposed. But I look at that as doing my evaluation of that is that hopefully I've done a great job in those 18 years. I've seen a lot of improvement in those 18 years in Van Buren Township. Any community you move in, you can expect growth. You can't expect it to stay stagnant. And as township representative, our job is to make sure that growth comes into the township to also observe your tax base so that we don't have to even make the inclination of raising taxes. I've been living here, I've been on the board 18 years. I don't know if any of you can say that we've asked you to increase taxes in the township. We collect 1%, one mil of taxes on your property taxes. I don't know exactly how many rooftop we have. We have the assessors. How many rooftops do we have in the township now, approximately? Approximately 20,000 rooftops. We collect, with those taxes, the township brings in about $1 million a year. $1 million. We cannot run my office, the treasurer office, or the supervisor's office on $1 million. The clerk's office is statutory, state statutory. It must be a clerk, it must be a treasurer. We couldn't run this township off of $1 million. We have a very robust police department. We have a very robust fire department, which you have seen grown leaps and bounds. That was your interest in mind, not my interest, but your interest, collaboratively, everyone's interest. I was set to retire at age 62 in 2024. That you said a lot of us ran unopposed. I was talking to run another term by the supervisor, the treasurer, and my colleague, because we saw other things that we wanted to see done for the township. One of the reasons why I ran again is because I've never worked with a board in the past 18 years. This is robust and more forward-thinking than these people that's sitting on this panel right now. My first 8 years in office was very stagnant. Nothing happened. It was board members fighting against each other, no progress, nothing coming into the township. So you saw no progress. You've seen more progress in the last 18 years that I've seen since I've been living in the township. The last 8 years since I've been living here. You have some very astute people sitting here, and I wouldn't say that if they're not. And yes, being a politician is a thankless job, because look what we just had. It's hard to sit here and listen to yourself being ridiculed, being called names, catcalled, called out your names, called stupid and everything else, but that's what we signed up for. I encourage anyone to put their name on a piece of paper in 2028 or whenever, and put your name on a piece of paper and let someone vote for you.
They're gonna be there.
Well, I encourage you to do it because we need people to step forward and do that. But the one reason why we ran on the polls because no one wanted to do it. So you can easily say that, but just put your name on a piece of paper is more than just a notion. But what I'm saying is that every decision we make in this township is who has your future and you and mine. We care about every resident. We have roughly a little less than 34,000 residents in this township. And you have to think about that. Yeah, you live in Hackney Sub, I live in Andover Farms. I talk to a lot of people. I'm the homeowner association president in Andover Farms. I have 218 homes in there that I talk to, I go for a daily walk. I get stopped daily. A lot of you guys are interested and you're really opposing the data center, but I have to listen to everyone. I'm not just Hackney Sub, Andover Farms, Charter Club, Walton Woods, Cobblestone, everyone that has a stake in this township as a homeowner. We have to listen to them. We not saying that we're not listening to you. It's evident that we're listening to you because a lot of the stuff that you brought forward is inclined and being referenced in this contract. A lot of the stuff that you brought forward, it's been a lot of thought process put into this, and we have laws that we have to abide by, and also listen to you and figure out how can we put those things into agreement to make it a win-win for everybody. Nobody's never going to get what they want. I don't ever get what I want, but it's got to be a win-win for the both. A win-win for the corporations that are asking to come in, a win-win for the township. Yeah, we signed non-disclosure agreements, but I've been a clerk for 18 years. I've always been non-disclosure agreement. We didn't start it; the state started. But I understand why they do it, because they have to compete with other businesses, and maybe they don't want their name disclosed because that's part of the competition. But once I learned that who the person was behind the non-disclosure agreement, once I learned it was Google, that really turned on a light in my mind because I did some studying myself, and I know I know the reputation Google has in the communities that they are a part of. So, yes, you use your phone, you Google, and this is Google, but you Google every day. And my kids are experts on their phone. That's everybody, they walk around like they're hypnotized looking at their phone. But in order to progress, we all need to move forward. This township can't move forward. We're always fighting each other. We have to move forward collaboratively as a unit. And this unit is you and us. We're put here to make your decision for you. It's not going to always be the decision that you like, but it can be a decision it's going to be a decision that we can live with. I have to live with the same decision that you all are going to live with. It's not just you. Okay? So I just want you to, when you leave here tonight, keep that in mind that we're all in this together. It's not you and not us. It's a we. And we're all thinking about the same thing. We're all thinking about you. I'm thinking about my grandkids also. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to speak? No? Okay. We are going to roll through the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different discussions and consideration of approval. We're starting with number 3. Discussion and consider approval of a resolution to establish an industrial development district. Can I get a motion?
Through the chair,
Trustee Boynton.
we approve resolution 2026-09 to establish industrial development district number 27.
Support.
Clerk Wright. I have a motion by Trustee Boynton, supported by Clerk Wright. Hearing no further discussion, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? This motion passes. Number 4.
Through the chair, I move that we approve of resolution 2026-10, a real industrial facilities tax exemption for Google LLC.
Can I get a support?
Support.
Clerk Wright. I have a motion by Trustee Boynton, supported by Clerk Wright. Hearing no further discussion on this item. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? This motion passes. Item 5, discussion on to consider approval of a resolution to form a personal industrial facilities tax exemption for Google LLC. Can I get a motion?
Through the chair,
Trustee Clerk Wright.
I'd like to make the motion for approval of resolution 2026-11, a personal industrial facility tax exemption for Google LLC.
Can I get a second?
Support.
Trustee Boynton. I have a motion by Clerk Wright, supported by Trustee Boynton. Hearing no further discussion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? This motion passes. Item 6, discussion and to consider approval of a memorandum of understanding between Van Buren Township and Google. Can I get a motion?
Through the chair,
Trustee Kelly.
consider approval of the memorandum of understanding between Van Buren Township and Google.
Can I get a second?
The chair, I make a second.
Trustee Frazier. I have a motion by Trustee Kelly, supported by Trustee Frazier. Hearing no further discussion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? This motion passes. Line item number 7, Treasurer Bud. Consider, discussion and consider approval of a developmental agreement between Van Buren Township and Panatoni for the data center development near Haggerty Road.
I would make a motion to approve the development agreement between Van Buren Township and Panatelli for the data center, with the condition be added that there will be added to the agreement which prohibits the installation of any groundwater wells and which prohibits the discharge of any domestic sanitary sewer discharge and/or cooling tower blowdown anywhere besides the Van Buren Township sanitary sewer system, and the final language will be addressed by legal counsel.
Can I get a second?
Support.
Clerk Wright. I have a motion by Treasurer Bud, supported by Clerk Wright. Hearing no further discussion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? This motion passes. We have no reports. We are now open for public comment on non-agenda items, which means not the data center. Is there anybody that wishes to come forward on non-agenda items? Okay, we're now to the board comments. Does anybody wish to make comment on, from the board? Oh, on non-agenda items, not data center. Sure, I'm sorry.
I'm just really sad that you guys couldn't even have a better development agreement allowing the quietness. This goes to all development. Please learn your lesson from this while you're in office. Please make sure there is no more directors making side deals before anything is public. Please review the FOIAs. We did not make this up. Please check and do your due diligence for the members of this township. It's not fair to us. And please, Google, please buy my house, anybody else in the sub that wants to move now. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Non-agenda items.
This is a non-agenda item.
Okay.
If there's anyone that would like to get an appraisal of their house now would be the time to do it, so that when it comes time and you would like to sue the township for making this poor decision, since so many residents opposed it, there you go. Oh, and I have an appraiser that is willing to do it for an affordable rate.
Thank you. Anybody else? Is there anybody from the board that wishes to make comment?
You know what, I will make a comment,
Okay.
because in the motion, we said they wouldn't be any wells and they would only use our sewer system. I must say that they announced that right from the start, that was not gonna happen. So there again, we tried to put it in the agreement, knowing that they said it, but now it's in the record. And I feel very comfortable that all the wastewater will not drain into our property. It will not go into the ponds that are out there. And, you know, and another question, people said that we didn't stick around that one night and answer questions. It got pretty late that night, so I did leave. But I can't tell you how many times I've been stopped at Myers, and I have answered any questions that they want. They've called me at home. They've come into my office, and I don't mind discussing how I feel about this project and what I think we've done to make sure that we have protected the residents. And I would certainly hope that after you've seen all the presents, that you would feel more comfortable that we do care. I live here, my grandchildren live here. I only live a half a mile away. I live next to the high towers that are running right by the farm that when I got married and moved here, they weren't there. There was a lot of things that wasn't here when I got married in '64, and I've seen a lot of changes. You know, did I like all of them? No, but you know, sometimes we have to roll, and in the end, I think it's worked out. I still think we have a township that's worth fighting for, and it's worth raising my family.
I've never turned anybody away. If anybody wants to come talk to me in my office, I'm happy to have them.
I'd like to put on the record that Treasurer Bud has a well. A what?
Yes, she does have a well. Okay. All right, so any other board comments? Okay, hearing none, I'm calling for an adjournment motion. Boynton, Frazier. Hearing no discussion, all in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned.